When he first arrived at the Nakano Magic Academy, he was the sole student who relied on melee weapons, while his peers wielded magical powers. For that reason alone, he fell prey to the strong, subjected to utter humiliation by those wretched lowlifes who believed they ruled the world simply because they possessed mana. A mundane human like him who utilizes melee weapons was nothing against a magic wielder. It was essentially like bringing bare fists to a gunfight. The entire student body looked down on him because he was a special admission student with zero aptitude for magic. Even Haruto questioned why a good-for-nothing like himself had ended up in a place where he clearly didn't belong. It wasn't his choice to be there. His parents had enrolled him as a special admission student without his consent. In his darkest moments, he wished he had died alongside his parents on that fateful day. But since he was stuck there, he had to face reality. Because he couldn't wield magic, he had no choice but to take up the blade and become a swordsman who could go up against magic wielders. Then again, someone utilizing melee weapons in the age of magic was a massive liability. He constantly dragged his party down during dungeon raids, earning him the mocking nickname, the God of Plagues. Little did he know, his life was about to flip upside down. One particular day, after returning to his dorm following the usual bout of bullying, he discovers a mysterious letter, one bearing neither a stamp nor any indication of its source. Slumping onto the sofa, our boy rips it open. An intense light floods out and stuns him. When he opens his eyes, he is in an alien place, standing ankle-deep in glowing blue water. A figure materializes before him, rippling with light. The being speaks first, stating the year is 2054. It looks at him and confirms he is Kuju Haruto, age 16. Haruto gives a wary nod. To his utter confusion, the figure introduces itself as Kuju Haruto from the future. Apparently, it is truly him from 10 years ahead, sending a letter to the past. Future Haruto claims that within a decade, our hero will become a mage able to bend space and time, but he is here to accelerate that training. Our protagonist remains unimpressed, his suspicion hitting its limit. The future version just smirks, noting that he has always been skeptical. He then demands that Haruto enter the F-rank dungeon at the Shinjuku Imperial Garden, promising to be in touch once he is inside. Still half convinced this is a prank, Haruto heads to the dungeon. It looks empty and useless. Glaring at the letter, he mutters threats about destroying it, but the paper responds smugly, acknowledging he could easily burn it. Following further directions, our protagonist ends up at a massive wall. Frustration boils over, and he considers torching the barrier until the letter instructs him to wedge it into a crack in the stone. Grinding his teeth, Haruto jams it in. The wall splits open to reveal a hidden passageway. He steps inside, eyes wide at the sight of a massive diamond-shaped object hovering in midair. The letter explains that this is a skill cube and tells him not to freak out. All he has to do is touch it to acquire new abilities. Our boy presses his palm against the cube. Instantly, the glow turns blood red. Enormous stone blocks detach from the walls and assemble into a towering robot. Haruto's brain short-circuits at the sight of a golem. Without warning, the machine fires a burning red beam, hurling him across the room. As his body slams into the ground, a sick realization hits. He has been conned. Searing heat engulfs our hero. His skin feels like it is melting, and his vision goes white as death creeps closer. He thinks of his family, ready to join them. As blood pools around him, the voice from the letter cuts through the haze. It asks if he really wants to go out as a failure who died like a joke. Lying there, Haruto reflects on the bullying and his pathetic life, but something ignites deep in his gut. He refuses to end it here. His future self sounds pleased, urging him to cling to life and flip his destiny. As our protagonist attempts to stand, the golem strikes again, killing him instantly. However, a system activates and triggers a hidden quest. The high-tech interface registers him as meeting the requirements for the Mage of Space and Time. It cancels his death, and his body undergoes a rollback, restoring him like a corrupted program to a previous state. Electric waves pulse through him as the process completes, and the system announces that Kuju Haruto has finally acquired space and time magic. The system flashes on the display, confirming all requirements are fulfilled, before firing a piercing beam of light at the skill cube. The object shatters into glittering diamond shards. Afterward, the screen displays a completion notice, verifying that the concepts of space and time magic are fully integrated. The interface grants skills such as Quick Body, Material Rewind, and Stop Chain to Kuju Haruto. He gains a specialized passive skill that, even at level 1, allows him to unleash 30% of his total power. Our boy demands to know what is happening to him. His future self explains that this is a shortcut to his awakening. While he admits the method is incredibly risky, he insists these brutal conditions are non-negotiable and offers a brief apology for dumping the burden on him without warning. The voice mentions that space and time magic is not supposed to be uncovered for another decade. It is a hidden quest only our protagonist has accessed. This finally commands Haruto's full attention, making him truly wonder if this being is indeed his future self. The future Haruto announces that the tutorial is about to begin. Suddenly, the massive golem lunges, but our hero dodges with effortless grace. He lifts off the ground to float in midair, his body feeling almost weightless. He realizes the new passive skill is already doing significant work. His future self informs him that he is about to learn what fighting as a space-time mage actually entails. The first step is to stop relying on his eyes and instead sense the current of time, as it governs all things. Kuju Haruto remains baffled at the idea of feeling time flow, but his future counterpart hypes him up. He reminds the boy that he can pull it off because they are the same person. Following instructions, our protagonist locks his focus onto the temporal flow. In an instant, his level 1 ability activates. Haruto blazes forward at light speed, pinpointing the golem's core hidden within its skull. He drives his blade into the target with such force that the head fractures under the blow. After destroying the core, our hero flips away as the hulking machine crashes to the ground with a thunderous thud. This victory bumps Kuju Haruto up to level 4. His swordsman skill climbs to level 8, and he pockets 45,800 credits. The voice from the future asks if he believes the truth now, even teasing him with his old nickname, the God of Plagues. Despite the display of power, our boy still isn't completely convinced. His future self ignores the skepticism, insisting they move to the next necessary step, exiting the dungeon. Haruto wonders if there is unfinished business nearby as he begins to head out. His future self replies that it is a necessary detour. He intends to bring the young man to the exact spot where Shinonome Rine was killed by a monster. Hearing this, our protagonist stiffens and asks in a tense voice what he means. Future Haruto confirms that his childhood friend died that very day after she and a few others entered the Ikebukuro D-rank dungeon, only to be slaughtered by an unexpected extra boss. He commands Haruto to save her and rewrite the future. Our protagonist sprints toward his childhood friend as the voice of his future self urges him to rewrite the future. On May 23, 2054, in the deepest sector of the Ikebukuro D-rank dungeon, Rine is destined to meet her end at the hands of a C-rank extra boss. Her smiling face flickers through Kuju Haruto's thoughts. Future Haruto mentions that, despite her friends chanting a rescue spell, no one came to their aid because no other adventurers were nearby. The entire team was meant to be wiped out. Shoving aside the voice in his head, our boy keeps running, furious that his future self waited until now to speak up. The older Haruto fires back, calling our hero an idiot who never wanted to team up because he feared his cursed luck would ruin others. He notes that rejection never stung the boy for that very reason, yet he wonders why our protagonist is so riled up now when the stakes aren't even his own life. Kuju enters the dungeon and immediately spots goblins. His future self tells him to quit acting enlightened, reminding him that the world can change based on his actions. Our hero slices through the monsters one after another, snapping at his future self to shut up. He insists on doing things his own way. The future Haruto smirks, having elicited the exact reaction he wanted, and decides to teach his younger self a new trick with space-time magic as a reward. Meanwhile, on the bottom floor, Rina is being mauled by the Dark Sentinel. She lies bloodied and unconscious while her 4 friends huddle together, weapons gripped tight. They yell over each other in a panic. One complains about the lack of warning, while a girl shrieks that their rescue spell is failing. Another teammate tries to rally them, insisting they can win if they attack together, but terror has them frozen. The monster towers over them like death itself. It lashes out with a brutal strike, sending the entire group sprawling. Seeing her teammates helpless, Rini staggers back to her feet and grips a magic spear with shaking hands. She lunges with everything she has, but the attack fails to affect the boss. Deep down, she knows she cannot win alone. Just as the Sentinel is about to strike her down, Kuju Haruto arrives. He uses his stop chain skill to halt the creature's blade and asks if she is okay. Rina sits there stunned, watching him. The boss frees itself from the chains and lunges at our protagonist, who dodges instantly. When he counters the next move, he spots the core, but it proves too durable to pierce. The boss blocks his blow and in the next moment, slices Haruto's blade clean in two. His heart sinks at the sight of the snapped metal. As the extra boss glows red with fury, our boy shifts focus to the gaps in its armor, locking his gaze on its head. Future Haruto warns him that his sword is about to shatter completely. Kuju Haruto clenches his teeth and, without hesitation, channels his magic, Material Rewind. In an instant, the broken sword rewinds to its original state, becoming whole again. Our hero jams the blade into a slit in the monster's helmet. The creature yanks the armor off, but its entire head blinks out of existence. Watching his younger self rewrite fate, the Haruto from the future feels a flicker of pride. Rina's eyes widen as she gazes at the boy before her, whispering his name in disbelief. Rina remains rattled, demanding an explanation from Haruto while medics rush her friends to the hospital. She eventually thanks our boy for saving them, but Kuju Haruto simply shrugs it off, telling her to keep quiet about his involvement. Rin wonders aloud if this is a little secret just between the two of them, and with a nod, he confirms that it is. Still fuming, she demands to know how he became so strong. Right as our protagonist is about to spill the truth, his future self cuts him off, warning him not to screw up the timeline and forbidding any mention of space-time magic. Consequently, Haruto asks again if she can truly handle the secret. When Rina continues to seethe for an answer, Kuju feeds her a bunch of nonsense about how too much has happened, and he isn't ready to reveal himself yet. His future self silently approves, thinking it is better to trick her for now. Rina catches a faint sound of the future Haruto's voice and asks if someone else is there. Kuju flat out denies hearing anyone, growing irritated by the voice in his head. He then spins a story, telling her he was simply itching to test a special swordsman skill that is still incomplete, which is why he wants to keep it hidden. Rina gives him a small smile, buys the excuse, and agrees to keep it under wraps. Kuju feels an immense wave of relief at having fooled her. The next day, inside the high school division in Tokyo's Nakano district, our hero reflects on how Rine's destined death was avoided and how he gained insane magic powers simultaneously. He realizes he cannot rewrite the distant past, but he is certain he can change what comes next. Off in the corner, his bullies begin mocking him again, using the God of Plagues nickname. They demand to know why he was at the Ikebukuro dungeon, sneering that someone saw him bail out of there looking powerless and pathetic. The group brags about facing the extra boss themselves, spreading false rumors that they were the ones who fought it. They continue to sneer at our protagonist, calling him God of Plagues, while he wonders who else could have seen him besides Rina. One of the boys mentions that his buddy was there and ended up hospitalized with bills that will bleed them dry. He attempts to blackmail Kuju, demanding he cover the costs, or they will ruin his reputation. When Haruto remains silent, their threats escalate. They call him a bastard and claim they will use him for target practice. Kuju's temper finally snaps. He growls that he has had enough and calls them worthless trash. The boys glare back and one lunges to punch him. Thanks to his boosted powers, our protagonist reads the movement like an open book. He nails the bully with a punch so fast the boy hits the floor before realizing what happened. Stunned, the bullies sit there blinking. Kuju gives them a cold warning to never approach him again while revealing all their wallets in his hand. The group stares, dumbfounded that their belongings were snatched without them noticing. He demands a promise that they will leave him alone for good, certain they won't dare cross him again. After the confrontation, he heads to class. As the professor lectures, Kuju's thoughts drift toward the upcoming magic capacity test. Suddenly, the professor announces they will perform the measurements right now and calls Haruto's name. Our boy rises from his seat and approaches the testing mirror. He thinks about how pathetic his intrinsic magic capacity used to be, but now he wonders how things will change as a space-time mage. He decides to give it his all and channels his new power. As he places his palm on the mirror, powerful electric waves erupt from his body, leaving the professor watching with wide eyes. Out of nowhere, the mirror topples and shatters into 1,000 pieces. The professor crashes to the floor in shock, and the entire classroom falls silent as students struggle to process the scene. Meanwhile, our protagonist's brain is short-circuiting. He immediately regrets flexing his power, having had no intention of sticking out this conspicuously. From her seat, Rina simply chuckles to herself. Outside, groups of students buzz with gossip about Kuju Haruto and the destroyed mirror. Theories fly regarding some weird, unknown magic he might possess, with one student even claiming our boy is ranked way beyond A rank. Haruto grows annoyed, quickly tiring of the unaccustomed attention. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls his name. He blinks in startlement as a plushie crawls out from the nearby bushes. Kuju squints at the creature, trying to figure out why its voice sounds so familiar until it finally clicks. The voice belongs to his future self, currently chilling in plushie form. The creature explains that it possessed a toy sitting back at his house before cutting straight to the point. There is an emergency and he needs to move fast. The Chaos Dragon has appeared much earlier than scheduled. Our hero racks his brain for information on the beast, and his future self explains that in the original timeline, this alpha-type target wiped out the Adventurer Guild in Ariake, triggering a disaster of epic proportions. Because it has arrived ahead of time, they must eliminate it immediately. Our boy realizes that if they fail, the unprecedented catastrophe will repeat itself. Kuju suggests calling the Adventurer Guild to dispatch an extermination squad, hoping a top-tier team can handle the threat. However, future Haruto shuts him down, stating there is 0 time left because the dragon is already cruising through the sky. Our protagonist glances up and spots the massive creature soaring above, wondering why it isn't sealed inside a dungeon. The plushie begins lecturing him about migrating dragon species that never stay put. As the beast heads straight for the school, dread pools in Haruto's stomach. He thinks of the carnage and the safety of the other students. Inside the building, the student body wanders about normally until they catch sight of the dragon. Murmurs of confusion turn to chaos as the dragon swoops toward the grounds. A woman's voice booms through the panic, ordering everyone to gear up for battle while civilians take cover. It is the student council's mage security guard. The guards spread out across the field, weapons gripped tight, and begin conjuring magic circles. As the dragon hovers menacingly, the commander orders them to keep the beast away from the school at all costs. They launch a coordinated magical assault. Following a deafening roar and an intense flare of light, the dragon momentarily vanishes. The guards cheer for their captain, but their victory is short-lived. The dragon bursts from the smoke, completely unharmed. Disappointment carves itself across the captain's face as she realizes her anti-dragon magic did nothing. The dragon retaliates, spewing magical flames that leave the squad frozen in terror. Within moments, the security mages are sprawled on the ground, knocked out cold. Our protagonist cannot believe how fast the defense fell apart. Future Haruto sighs, noting that student mages were never a match for a dragon. The sarcasm pisses Kuju off, but before he can respond, the plushie splashes a pink liquid all over him. Our hero reels, baffled by the move. His future self explains that the liquid is Ryu Hakuku, dragon incense. It acts as a beacon that will make the aggressive, low-intelligence beast obsessed with hunting him down. Kuju's head spins, wondering why his older self would set him up this way. But the future Haruto urges him forward, telling him to step up and slay the beast. As the dragon locks eyes on him and begins its descent, the voice in his head commands him to unleash his space and time magic and show the creature what he is truly capable of. The dragon darts straight for him, forcing our protagonist to lead the beast away from the school. Kuju Haruto's gaze flicks to Rine, noticing her tending to other students amidst the chaos. The voice of his future self cuts in, asking if he really wants to drag her into this mess. Haruto fires back with a sharp no. His older self simply shrugs verbally, telling him to bolt. As long as no one is around to witness the fight, they remain in the clear. With that, our boy kicks his quick body ability into gear, blasting off at light speed with the dragon in pursuit. After a frantic chase, Kuju arrives at the Tokyo City Junior Nakano Station. Finding the area completely deserted, the plushie tells him to hop the fence and lure the creature inside. Haruto takes a steadying breath and demands a breakdown of the dragon's traits. Future Haruto launches into an explanation, describing its dark element nature and lethal breath. He warns that charging head-on is pure suicide due to a nasty miasma that carries a delay effect. Furthermore, the beast packs heavy resistance against physical hits, making sloppy strikes pointless. He then casually mentions that the dragon is technically from 5 years in the future, a mere baby with barely any brains. All it took to lure it was dragon incense worth 500,000 credits. The price nearly knocks our hero off balance. When his future self confirms the cash was already deducted from his account, Haruto flies into a blind rage. He lunges at the plushie, grabbing it tight and demanding to know why he pulled this stunt and how he obtained his pin code. The future Haruto only smirks at the outburst. Eventually, our protagonist gives up the physical struggle. The older version tells him to chill, promising he will earn the money back quickly. Taking down the dragon will secure an insane reward, and with the skill cube's help, Kuju can nuke the monster and receive a fresh space-time spell as a bonus. He then steers Haruto back to the mission, pointing out that because the dragon is underdeveloped, its weak spot is exposed right in the core. Before they can strategize further, the dragon lashes out. Our hero snatches up his future self and hauls ass out of the way, throwing a sarcastic thanks at the plushie for the tips. Kuju hacks through the fence with his sword and charges. The dragon is relentless, blasting flames as he weaves through the attacks with his blade ready. One massive fireball slams into the station, turning the structure into a blazing wreck. Through the coiling smoke, Kuju Haruto spots the weak point dead center on its chest. He blurs forward, crossing the gap in half a second. The older Haruto watches, stunned that our boy just pulled off a practical application of space-time magic to dodge the blast. Closing in on the core, Haruto channels everything into his sword and drives the blade home. However, there is no sensation of contact. A torrent of fire explodes from the core, catching our protagonist off guard and slamming him down hard. He seethes at his older self, furious he wasn't warned about the counterattack. The future Haruto suddenly remembers that the Chaos Dragon can morph its body into miasma, meaning Kuju needs to be careful during his next strike. Our hero lands safely on the tracks below, teeth clenched as he demands that his future self actually explain enemy abilities before the brawl starts. The older version rattles on, adding that the dragon can solidify that miasma and spit out hordes of mini-dragons called legions. Fueled by rage, the Chaos Dragon begins pumping an army of these small creatures out from its core. Kuju Haruto can hardly believe a baby dragon is capable of churning out an entire legion like this. Kuju realizes quickly that this dragon is not going to go down easily. Above him, a swarm of baby dragons flutters through the air, filling the sky with a rhythmic beating of wings. Old Haruto breaks down the situation, explaining that while the beast is meant to be a nightmare opponent, it has arrived 5 years too soon. Kuju snaps back, demanding to know why it appeared ahead of schedule. The plushie coolly tells him it is his own fault for messing with the timeline, insisting our protagonist better own up and finish what he started. The accusation hits hard, leaving Kuju feeling lousy for being blamed for the world falling apart. Out of nowhere, a massive blast of fire roars toward him, forcing our boy to spring into the air with his quick body magic. Mid-jump, he swings his sword and slices through one of the baby dragons. Seeing the creature drop without morphing into miasma brings a spark of relief. His older self's voice guides him, suggesting he scatter the babies and wait for an opening to take out the main dragon. Advice Kuju finds annoyingly oversimplified. Without wasting time, our hero powers up his magic. Energized, he leaps skyward again, slashing into the swarm. One by one, he tears the monsters apart with his blade. Watching from below, old Haruto cannot hide his shock at the boy's combat prowess. His eyes flicker to the system stats, noticing Kuju's level has already jumped by 3. For a second, our protagonist wonders if he has wiped out every last baby dragon, but that thought vanishes when the Chaos Dragon materializes directly before him. Its fury blazes as it spits an enormous stream of fire. He narrowly saves himself by diving behind a train, but the dragon follows up with another scorching blast that he barely manages to dodge. Panic sets in as Kuju realizes he is burning through his stamina just by eliminating the small dragons. These heavy strikes are pushing him to his absolute limit. Exhausted, he knows he needs at least a few minutes to recharge before unleashing his strongest move. In his mind, he is already pinpointing the target, the dragon's core. The beast begins to rise higher into the sky, and future Haruto warns that there is no way for our boy to reach it now. As the creature soars further above, Kuju searches desperately for anything he can use. Since he is at a station, the area is littered with trains. He forms a quick plan. Old Haruto prees, wanting to know what is cooking in his head while warning that the longer the fight drags on, the tougher it will get. Without warning, Kuju grabs his older self and bolts. He sprints across the trains, hopping from carriage to carriage, then springs toward an electric pole. Old Haruto shouts that simply climbing higher won't be enough, but our protagonist replies bluntly that he has the situation under control. Gripping his older self tightly, he hurls the plushie straight at the monster with all his might. As the future Haruto soars through the air, Kuju activates his space-time magic and mutters, "Stop chain." In an instant, glowing magical chains coil around the flying plushie, sparking rage in the older man's eyes. He demands to know what the hell Kuju thinks he is doing. Ignoring the protests, our hero uses the mid-air plushie as a platform, stepping on him to jump even higher and close the distance to the beast. Anger pulses through him as he swears not to let the creature morph into miasma again. He invokes Stop Chain once more, and thick chains lash out to wrap around the dragon. Kuju knows he has only bought himself a few fleeting seconds, but he is hell-bent on ending it within that window. He rockets up to the dragon's level, his gaze locking onto the center of its chest. With a ferocious thrust, our boy drives his sword straight into the glowing core. The core shatters into fragments. In the next instant, a massive explosion erupts, flinging old Haruto to the ground. Smoke billows everywhere, obscuring the sky. But out from the swirling gray emerges Kuju Haruto, standing tall with his broken sword in hand. Slaying the beast bumps our protagonist up by 15 levels, while his swordsman proficiency shoots up 28 points. On top of the experience, he pockets 872,300 credits and snags a rare Chaos Dragon Fang. His rank jumps to Adventurer C, accompanied by a system recommendation to report to the nearest guild. Old Haruto looks pleased, claiming he expected nothing less, though annoyance lingers in his voice as he accuses the boy of treating him like a convenient ladder. Our hero is too distracted by his stats to care. His secret space-time magic has risen by 20 points, unlocking level 2 for both Material Rewind and Quick Body. His passive skill has also hit level 2, granting a potential 50% power boost. The future Haruto explains that killing the dragon prevented a massive disaster from repeating. He warns, however, that someone might spill the beans about the fight. Anxiety flickers across the plushie's face at the thought of being discovered, and he urges Kuju to get moving. Our boy wonders if they could at least see eye to eye for once before hoisting his older self onto his shoulder and bolting from the battlefield. Back in his apartment, they sit together on the couch. Kuju unwraps a sandwich, eyeing his future self while he eats. Trapped in the toy's body, the older Haruto ignores him, since stuffed animals lack a mouth to chew with. Irritated, the plushie snaps that the boy should try using his brain, but Haruto mumbles back that a talking toy is already weird enough. He pours a cup of milk and stares at a framed family photo, whispering that he is home. He warns the older version not to mock his sentimental side, but old Haruto replies casually that since they are the same person, he obviously won't. Privately, the future Haruto chooses to keep certain details about a woman named Ria to himself, thinking it is too early for the boy to hear them. He plans to reveal the truth only when our protagonist matures further. Kuju asks about the Chaos Dragon Fang, and his older self confirms that his current sword is on its last legs. He advises our boy to ditch school the next day to forge a new weapon and test its strength. The following morning, Kuju Haruto stands outside the Shinjuku branch of the Adventurers Guild. He remembers when he felt like a powerless nobody who had no right to be here. The older version peeks out from a shoulder bag, reminding him that his progress is due to his future self's guidance. Our hero just wants to finish the task and go home, telling the toy not to run off on its own. Inside the lobby, they wait until the screen calls number 23. At the counter, a beautiful receptionist asks what brings him in. He hands over his ID card to check his dungeon results. She notes his meek vibe but slides the card into her computer, asking him to place his hand on the scanner for identity confirmation. She is shocked when his results pop up, showing a leap from rank E to rank C in a single day. As the numbers glow on the screen, the receptionist wonders if the system has glitched. People begin to stare, and Kuju feels his stomach sink. He hates standing out and decides to fix the situation by activating Material Rewind. The system finishes the confirmation, but his rank suddenly displays as E again. The receptionist blinks, unable to wrap her head around the change. When our boy asks if there is an issue, she simply shakes her head and hands the card back, still baffled. He thanks her and turns to leave. Suddenly, the monitor updates again, flashing the promotion back to rank C. Old Haruto realizes our protagonist only rewound the display itself and smirks at his quick thinking. Kuju replies that avoiding unnecessary timeline splits is his top priority. As they head toward the elevator, the older version tells him to get inside. Our hero stands silently as they ascend. When they step out, they face a door marked for Rank A adventurers only. The plushie suddenly morphs into a letter, telling Kuju to scan it on the sensor. Despite the high security clearance, the letter insists he proceed. Haruto presses the paper to the scanner, and the door unlocks with a click. The letter tells him to begin, and Kuju steps into the room to start synthesizing a weapon suitable for a space-time mage. Inside the lab, a young man is busy typing away at his computer, wondering aloud if there is a field trip today. The letter in Kuju Haruto's hand answers him flatly, stating there is no trip and that today's visit is strictly for a weapon synthesis request. The man at the desk, Shiroyama Tokamoon, turns and asks if our protagonist is at least an A-rank adventurer. As the head of the weapon synthesis lab, Tokamoon squints at Kuju, clearly puzzled. He thinks our boy looks like a low-tier rank F student and suspects he might have tricked security to sneak in. The letter instructs Kuju to show him the materials. When our boy holds them out, Tokamoon studies the items carefully, realizing they are rare materials dropped by a high-level monster. Haruto asks if he can use them as a synthesis ingredient to power up a weapon. Tokamoon nods, recognizing their immense value, and wonders if Kuju ripped them off a beast he hunted himself. Our hero confirms this with a casual nod. Tokamoon glances at Haruto's sword, takes in the whole picture, and taps a password into his smartwatch. Suddenly, the doors lining the floor slide open as a capsule-shaped machine rolls out. Tokamoon explains that this is Japan's top-tier, latest model synthesis machine, the gold standard in otherworld research tech. As a hatch opens, he explains that it will run a full analysis on any item fed into it, especially since this material is not yet in the guild database. Seeing a perfect chance for research, he offers our boy free use of the machine. Old Haruto informs Kuju that since he is currently clueless about weapon synthesis, he will be teaching him step by step. Kuju admits he has no idea what he is doing and waits for instructions. His future version explains that one cannot even take this course at the academy without being rank 8 or higher. He breaks the process into 4 parts: picking a base weapon, choosing an attribute, selecting enhancement materials, and the final synthesis. Since Haruto's sword is rank F, it only has 1 attribute slot, which leaves Kuju looking a bit thrown off. Our protagonist slips his sword into the machine as the base. For the attribute selection, the screen flashes options for fire, water, wind, earth, and light. Future Haruto suggests light, and our boy picks it without a fuss. After dropping the Chaos Dragon Fang into the sealable chamber, he is told to set the forging time. His older self bluntly tells him to set it for 3 years. Kuju's jaw drops at the weight, but he eventually gives in. The device kicks off the process, but out of nowhere, the letter flies out of Haruto's pocket and zips into the chamber. Blinding beams of light erupt, leaving our hero wondering what his future self is up to. Suddenly, the machine explodes with a deafening bang before calmly thanking him for his patience. It announces the synthesis is finished. The screen displays the Chaos Sword, a light attribute A-rank weapon. Old Haruto beams with pride while Kuju stares at the sword, questioning if this is actually real. His future self smugly notes he cannot pull this off every time. Meanwhile, Tokamoon stands stunned, unable to process how a 3-year process wrapped up in seconds. Sensing the need to leave, old Haruto urges Kuju to grab the sword and get out. The computer voice confirms the weapon is stored safely in his item box. Kuju thanks Tokamoon and heads for the exit, throwing a casual goodbye over his shoulder while the chief tries to call him back. Outside, our protagonist overhears people gossiping about a mysterious rookie who decapitated a migrating beast in an instant. They speculate that whoever pulled it off must be a total monster, and chatter about how his identity might trigger fights between famous clans. Kuju thinks it is pointless to dwell on the rumors and just wants to head home. However, the plushie beside him is hyped to try out the new sword, chirping that they should head to the lair of the sacred beast, Cerberus. Kuju blinks in shock at the suggestion. Just then, Rini calls out Haruto's name from behind, appearing as if she has something important to say. Rina tells Kuju Haruto how relieved she is to see him in one piece. She explains that some students informed her the monster attacking the school had actually been pursuing him. Worry is written all over her face as she mentions messaging him for ages, but none of her texts were marked as read. Since Kuju skipped school today, she demands to know why he is here now. The plushie pipes up, telling our protagonist to keep it brief and skip the pointless chatter. Haruto admits his future self has a point. Seeing that he is unharmed, Rinne's eyes well up with tears of happiness. He apologizes for making her worry, causing her to cry openly. Out of nowhere, Rinne scoops up the plushie and starts playing with it. She begins planting kisses on the toy, catching a whiff of Haruto's familiar scent. The older Haruto demands she put him down immediately, finding the affection bizarre. However, Kuju Haruto offers to let her keep the plushie for a while. Rini looks shocked, while his future self glares daggers at him in silent rage. Our hero tells her to return it later and brushes off her thanks, saying he will catch her another time. As he walks away, Rini clutches the toy like it is her own child. He feels lighter, glad to have distracted her from the chaos, even as the older Haruto silently panics about being left behind. The next day, Kuju Haruto strolls outside the school with the plushie perched on his shoulder. He tries to make amends, explaining he rushed back to retrieve him as soon as possible. Although the future Haruto is still fuming, he eventually throws out a quiet thank you. He He is moved to have seen his long-lost childhood friend after a decade. From a building window far away, a sharply dressed young man watches our protagonist intently. He recognizes the boy as the so-called god of plagues, and the sight piques his interest. Labeling Haruto as Mr. Mysterious Dragonslayer in his mind, he decides to make the student his next target for entertainment. Later, inside the student counseling office, Kuju Haruto stands before the student council vice president, Sakura Kuji Yuzuki. She grills him about the dragon incident, demanding he spill everything he knows. When he gives a flat denial, she slides over her reports, pointing out that he ran exactly toward the source of the monster attack. Our hero explains that the beast switched targets to another student and then vanished. He claims that student was the one who killed the beast while he barely managed to survive. He shakes his head when asked if he saw the savior's face, claiming he was too busy trying not to die. Yuzuki seems to accept the answer, and Haruto excuses himself. As he leaves her office, he wonders why she is so suspicious. His future self knows exactly why and pulls up a viral video on his phone. The headline asks if the person in the footage is actually a student, calling the fight epic. Social media is flooded with photos and posts of the battle, with people gushing over their savior. Kuju Haruto asks the plushie if space-time magic can wipe the internet clean, but the older version tells him it is impossible at his current skill level. Defeated by reality, our boy enters his classroom. The usual silence is gone, replaced by students whispering and expecting a spectacle. As he sits down, Rina warns him to stay on his guard. Before she can explain further, a handsome upperclassman interrupts. The student introduces himself as Sumeragi Ryuga, a third year and the student council president. Claiming to be the genius magician at the top of the school food chain, Ryuga confirms Haruto's identity and boldly declares that he wants a magic duel. Sumeragi wastes no time making his intentions clear as he throws down a challenge for a magic duel. Kuju, Haruto, and Rine stare at him, stunned, while the rest of the class buzzes about the sudden declaration, convinced our boy is finished. Sumeragi recalls Kuju as a worthless failure with zero magic capacity, remembering how he smashed the device used to measure a mage's power. He also thinks back to the strange leftover traces from that incident, the online posts hyping up a mysterious dragon killer, and the fact that Haruto wiped out a dragon solo. Our protagonist wonders how Sumeragi even knows about those events. To Ryuga, the situation is fascinating, which is exactly why he wants to shut it down before it snowballs out of control. He confesses that he has also taken down a dragon alone, but he continues pressing for the duel, itching to steal the Dragon Slayer title for himself. A magic duel is an official test set up by the Adventurer Cultivation Agency for students to prove their capabilities, and the outcomes directly shape student rankings. High-ranking students enjoy special perks and are treated like future guild officers. One dominant rule governs these duels: no magic that could kill or permanently injure an opponent. In these matches, the lower-ranked student holds the power to decide if the duel happens, and can even challenge a higher-ranked opponent. While a higher-ranked student cannot back down from a challenge, a lower-ranked one can refuse without issue. Kuju Haruto wonders how he is supposed to handle a duel against the absolute top student in the school. The challenger tells him to think carefully, smirking as he warns Rinny that she should watch her step if she wants a shot at the student council next term. It is a thinly veiled threat, promising to get personal with his next lesson. Rina looks terrified, stiffly thanking him for his advice while shaking in fear. Suddenly, our hero stands firm and asks Sumeragi if he still wants this duel. If so, Haruto is ready to accept. Rina looks at him as if he has lost his mind. Our protagonist adds one condition: whoever loses must drop out of school. Sumeragi lights up with a grin, agreeing with excessive enthusiasm. He is full of himself, certain that Kuju already regrets the wager, but our boy only tightens his resolve. Later, old Haruto comments that the young man is starting to act more and more like him. They sit outside the school while Kuju digs into lunch. Future Haruto warns that Sumeragi is no joke. When Kuju asks if his future self knows the man, the elder explains that Sumeragi is destined to become the Shinjuku branch chief of the Adventurer Guild and one of the 7 sages, eventually developing numerous new fire element spells. Haruto thinks being a sage probably just means the guy is a high-level idiot. His future version snorts in agreement, calling the man sleaze incarnate. He warns that from this point forward, Sumeragi will use every bit of his position against our protagonist. The man is absolute scum who has abused countless women under his command, yet he is dangerously good at leading people. Worst of all, he is certain Haruto is the Dragon Slayer because students in his faction tipped him off. His magical talent is the real deal, and his genius mage reputation isn't baseless. Future Haruto warns that, currently, our protagonist stands no chance. Plushie pulls up the profile for Kuju Haruto. He is an adventurer level 15, rank C, with swordsmanship at 31 and spacetime magic at 34. The system flashes a red warning regarding his unknown skills, recommending a report to the guild. His potential release level is 2, providing a 50% boost. His strength is 61, agility is 159, and defense is 89. Crucially, his magic power is flat out 0. His intelligence is rated B, mental toughness B+, and growth potential is a rare S. His main weapon is a sword, and he has learned Quick Body level 2, Stop Chain, and Material Rewind level 2. Plushie admits the boy has grown, but when he lines up the challenger's stats for comparison, our hero is shocked that his older version can even access them. Old Haruto displays Sumeragi's profile, showing stats that tower over Kuju's own. Plushie sums it up coldly. the challenger's power level is 10 times higher. Reeling from the gap, Haruto wonders if this is a perk of space-time magic and asks if the numbers are legitimate. His eyes drift to a girl comforting another girl outside. The girl mumbles in despair, freaking out because her mind blanked on basic magic. She is terrified of failing the upcoming mage course exams. Her friend tries to calm her, saying there is nothing wrong with using a wand in chance. She wonders if she has any choice but to accept Ryuga's offer for private tutoring at his home. Anger spikes in Kuju Haruto. He is certain Ryuga plans to prey on her. Our protagonist clenches his fists and intervenes, walking straight up to the girls. They look at him with confusion, wondering if he belongs to the Swordsman course. Haruto tells them firmly that they do not need those creepy private lessons, promising he will handle that bastard one way or another. Kuju steps closer to the girl and tells her to hang tight for a moment. He raises his hand near her cheek, attempting to sense the root of her distress. Having picked up a scanning technique during magic capacity measurement class, Haruto can now read the way magic flows and shifts within a person. He scans her thoroughly and notices that her magic circuits are fried. The pathways are jammed because she has been casting spells far beyond her limits. He prepares to clear the clogs and restore her normal circulation. Kuju tells her to relax and stay steady, bringing his hand even closer. Though the proximity initially unnerves her, a burst of glowing light suddenly erupts from her body. A wave of relief washes over her, but her friend, Yuko, immediately jumps between them, demanding to know what he is doing and telling him to back off. In that moment, the girl feels her powers flooding back. She is stunned and overjoyed to find her magic not only restored but feeling stronger than ever. Her thoughts drift toward Kuju as she realizes she no longer faces the nightmare of Ryuga's private tutoring. While Yuko celebrates her friend's recovery, our boy remains preoccupied with the upcoming fight. Old Haruto senses that our protagonist has something on his mind and gives him the green light to speak. Kuju asks how he can close the gap between his and Sumeragi's abilities more efficiently, given they only have 3 days until the duel. He asks Plushie which dungeon within his reach will maximize his growth. His future version already has the map and details for the next location ready. When our hero asks about the rewards, the elder mentions a massive amount of experience points, fresh space-time spells, a chance to test his newly crafted weapon, and even the ability to summon a beast. Our protagonist cannot hide his excitement. Later, he arrives at the Azabu B-rank dungeon, known as the Crystal Labyrinth. This area usually requires adventurers to be at least level 65 to survive. The place is crawling with enemies, and Kuju is forced to engage them all. He looks around, wondering if he truly needs to eliminate every single one as beasts surround him from all directions. Our hero looks to Plushie, questioning if this is worth the hassle, but his older version orders him to clear out every last monster. Bracing himself, Kuju charges in and begins slicing through the horde. An hour passes. Deep in the final section of the labyrinth, a young man and woman battle a creature together. The girl swings her wand, blasting a jet of flames at the monster. She beams, thinking the attack was effective, but the creature strolls out of the smoke without a scratch. Their enemy is a Dark Crystal Knight, a resident of the labyrinth with 2300 HP, an attack stat of 340, and a defense of 610. Its magic resistance and special abilities far outclass the two students. The boy warns her that their attacks are doing nothing, and she stares in terror as the knight closes in. Suddenly, our boy appears and ends the monster's life with one clean swing, shattering its head into fragments. The two students are overcome with relief and shower Kuju with thanks. He mentions to his older self that the enemies here feel like a never-ending tide before telling the pair to escape while they can. The boy asks if Kuju will be alright alone, but our protagonist replies that he intends to keep slaying every monster that approaches to ensure their safe exit. Sword in hand, our hero faces the incoming horde and quietly tells the students to move. The boy apologizes for his lack of strength and thanks Haruto for saving his life. Meanwhile, old Haruto informs our protagonist that he has slain 89 monsters so far, noting that he hasn't even reached half of his quota. Kuju snaps back with irritation that he is well aware of the count. His future version tells him to hurry and finish the area so he can rank up. As they speak, the monsters close in around our boy from all sides. Kuju hacks away at the monsters, each swing slicing through them as if they are nothing against his sheer power. Plushie pipes up, pointing out that these creatures provide the most experience in the Crystal Labyrinth, making them the quickest ticket to leveling up. He adds that even for someone as skilled as our boy, this is no easy task. Kuju continues his relentless assault, chopping one beast apart with a ruthless swing before shifting tactics. He weaves in space-time magic to accelerate the process, lashing out with magical chains that seize their bodies. Future Haruto notes that the Chaos Sword is now fused with the light element, finally allowing our protagonist to go toe-to-toe with these beasts. Though enemies spawn like an endless plague, Kuju cuts them down without hesitation. His future version encourages him to keep stacking kills while the opportunity lasts. Our hero unleashes another crushing blast of space-time magic, his resolve to wipe them out remaining rock solid. Each attack rips through their ranks, yet more keep surfacing to replace the fallen. Kuju and Plushie freeze for a second as a massive creature stomps into view brandishing a giant sword. It is the Dark Crystal General, a boss-type enemy with 4800 HP, a staggering 880 defense, and A-level magic resistance. Kuju meets the giant's blade with his own, feeling the crushing force of the impact. Deciding to tap into his weapon's hidden potential, he lets flames erupt from the sword to roar into the monster's body. The strike drains a significant portion of his energy, but he doubles down with every ounce of strength and speed he has left, smashing a blow straight into the giant's head. Future Haruto tries to offer important information, but Kuju is too locked into combat to pay attention. As he continues hacking through the surrounding monsters, his older self carries on with the lecture regardless. Old Haruto explains that space-time magic is unique. It does not draw from magic capacity but from the Chronos factor, a force that controls the world's time flow. This is why someone with zero magic capacity like our boy can still use it. Kuju is fuming that this information is being dumped on him in the middle of a life-or-death struggle. Irritation bubbles over as he fights back the flood of enemies, while Plushie drones on about how there is no better way to learn than under pressure. When the monsters charge like rabid beasts, our protagonist casts Stop Chain Magic. His chains lash out to tear through the ranks, but the enemies eventually begin snapping the magic apart. Future Haruto tells him to drop his guard and keep swinging. Just then, a dark crystal sorcerer enters the chamber, hurling glowing magic stars. Future Haruto reminds Kuju to stay mindful of the Chronos factor even in the thick of battle. The monsters begin blasting searing beams of light, and though fear tightens his chest, our hero reacts instantly. He seizes the light with his magic, bending the flow of time itself. A colossal explosion rocks the hall, engulfing everything in blinding heat and flames. As smoke and dust fill the room, Kuju holds his position with sheer willpower. Out of the haze, the largest monster yet charges forward. Our boy blasts it with a massive ray of blue light, a strike so powerful it finally puts the giant beast down for good. Kuju's eyes widen as he truly grasps what it means to command the flow of time. Plushie confirms his realization, while old Haruto privately admits our protagonist might actually be stronger than him for unleashing a chrono ray so effortlessly. Standing atop a towering pile of slaughtered monsters, Kuju casually finishes off the remaining survivors without mercy. Exhaustion weighs on his limbs, but the magic screen flashes repeatedly with news of his level increases. Amidst the sea of corpses, our hero stands tall and asks his older self with cool confidence what the next target is. They have finally reached the inner chamber of the deepest floor, where the dungeon boss awaits, the sacred beast Cerberus. Our protagonist stands before a massive door, looking completely drained. His older self pipes up, explaining that the constant use of space-time magic takes a heavy toll on the brain, leaving the user wiped out. He asks if Haruto wants to call it quits, but Kuju shoots the idea down, noting that time is ticking away. They step into the deepest chamber of the crystal labyrinth and freeze at the sight of a three-faced creature. Old Haruto quickly explains that this boss has a rare sense of honor and pride. It is a gigantic wolf with 3 snarling heads, the sacred Cerberus. As the beast approaches, the elder wonders if they should speak as if they are in an old samurai film, mentioning rumors that the beast carries the soul of a warrior. Kuju's head feels like it is splitting open, so his future version hands him a tiny bottle to ease the pain. Our boy gulps it down, baffled to see the monster simply sitting there, seemingly waiting for him to recover. Tossing the empty bottle aside, Haruto realizes how bizarre the dungeon boss is acting. Future Haruto points out an old injury on the creature's right side and tells him to aim there. The beast rises, its overwhelming aura returning. As our protagonist absorbs his instructions, he wonders if this wolf is truly giving him a chance to prepare. He feels a sudden surge of gratitude for the samurai spirit within his opponent. Suddenly, the monster charges with a brutal attack, and a single shove sends Haruto flying. In that moment, he spots the scar his older self mentioned, a vivid red gash on its side. He attempts to block the assault by jamming his sword into one of the creature's mouths before leaping back. Realizing a breath attack is coming, old Haruto yells for him to dodge. Our hero zips out of range, practically disappearing with his speed. Zeroing in on the wound, he smashes his fist into it with everything he has. The blow sends the beast crashing back, but old Haruto shouts for him to hold up. It turns out Kuju accidentally healed the old injury instead of exploited it. It is as if he repaid the beast for its earlier mercy, wanting a fair fight. His older self is furious, calling him insane and fearing for his life. But our protagonist's sense of honor runs too deep. He refuses to take advantage of an enemy that showed him respect. He is ready to die before carrying such a debt. Unexpectedly, the monster hands his sword back to him. Both Kuju and Plushie stare in a daze, but our boy shakes his head. He refuses the weapon, choosing to brawl barehanded. He taunts the creature, declaring this is no longer a quest or a grind. It is a straight-up street fight. The monster stands still, refusing to strike back, leaving old Haruto baffled by the behavior of these two. Without warning, the beast finally fires a searing beam of light, flinging Haruto away. Our protagonist counters with a brutal punch to one of the jaws, knocking it out cold. He then shoves his hand into its mouth and closes his eyes, waiting for the next move. Future Haruto's panic spikes as the beast clamps down on the hand and tosses him aside. The elder screams at Kuju to snap out of it because the monster is about to go all out. Haruto calmly says he is already on it, knowing he must pour every ounce of his power into this struggle. All 3 of the monster's mouths brim with flames before blasting fire at him. Fortunately, our boy ducks for cover and plots his final move. Hoping for a bit of luck, Kuju slams his fist into the monster's weak spot, but his body finally gives out and he collapses. The creature snaps its jaws onto his arm and flings him away again before lunging forward to pin him down. Gritting his teeth, Haruto drives his fist into one of its faces, knocking that head unconscious, then follows up with a brutal kick to another skull. Deciding to end the struggle, our boy leaps upward and slams his heel down onto the beast's middle head. The three-headed creature sprawls out on the ground. Standing over it, Kuju wonders if he has always been such a meathead before falling to the floor himself. A system window appears, announcing that the crystal labyrinth has been cleared. After a few minutes, our protagonist opens his eyes to find his older version questioning if he is finally awake. As he blinks and takes in his surroundings, his mind drifts to how he actually managed to win. A shimmering screen reveals his level has shot up by 20, a boost that leaves Kuju feeling accomplished. He also receives a notification for the space-time mage's robe, though Plushie shrugs it off as a mere ceremonial piece. Clutching his forehead, our hero decides to deal with the gear later. Just then, the monster reappears acting like a giant puppy. Cautiously, Kuju extends his hand, and the beast responds with the excitement of a pet. Old Haruto watches in disbelief as the creature nuzzles up to the boy, wondering if this was truly meant to be a dungeon boss. His future version admits he didn't see this coming but tells Kuju to be grateful and accept the reward. When Kuju asks if he means the gear, the elder points at the sacred beast, declaring Cerberus itself the ultimate clear reward. Future Haruto explains that feeding the beast his blood will bind it as a vassal. Without hesitation, Kuju slices his finger and lets a few droplets fall, confirming the contract. From now on, he can summon the beast whenever he likes. With the message, the sacred beast Cerberus is now his vassal, flashing on the screen, their mission is complete. 3 days later at the high school division in Tokyo, students chuckle as Kuju walks by, his face and hands covered in small cuts. Rina waits for him in the corridor, asking where he has been. Haruto explains he was tied up with duel preparations, though she wonders what kind of training leaves him looking like he was dragged through hell. He simply tells her that no matter what, he is ready. Rina stares at him, questioning if he is still the same person she grew up with as they stand quietly in the school garden. From above, Ryuga spots them, surprised that Kuju showed up at all. He is itching for a public beatdown. Later, inside the building, Ryuga blocks our hero's path and declares the duel will happen after class. He asks if Kuju has gathered his courage, mockingly calling him the mysterious dragon slayer. With unwavering confidence, Kuju replies that he is ready and confirms the stakes. The loser drops out of school. Ryuga grins, but decides to spice things up by proposing a new bet of 100 million credits. Anxiety tightens our protagonist's chest as other students begin chanting, pressuring him to accept for their entertainment. Inside the shoulder bag, old Haruto realizes Ryuga is using the crowd to provoke the boy and leave him no room to retreat. The villain's goal is to strip Kuju of everything and make him a slave, but our boy agrees to the outrageous bet anyway. As Ryuga turns to leave, he jeers at Rine for siding with the wrong person, warning her to prepare for his special lesson. However, Kuju reassures her confidently that he will win no matter what, leaving her to gaze at his resolute face. After classes wrap up, Kuju Haruto strolls out of his classroom, casually chatting with his future version, who reminds him that the time for the duel has arrived. Just outside, Ryuga's crew hangs around like loyal puppies. They grip their weapons tightly, blocking the path, as one of them announces a desire for a quick spar before the main event. It is made clear that a 1,000,000 credit bounty is on the table for anyone who manages to beat our boy. The group calls Kuju a walking sack of cash, eyeing him and asking if he is shaking in his boots. Within seconds, they form a ring around him, smirking as they warn that begging won't save him. Kuju actually feels relieved, realizing Ryuga is still pulling the same stale moves he expected. The wannabe thugs spit out insults, calling our protagonist worthless trash, but Haruto tells them they are merely first in line for a beating today. One punk lunges forward with a sword, but Kuju simply catches his face mid-swing and smashes him into the wall. Disappointed by the pathetic attempt, he tells the rest to come at him all at once. Meanwhile, over at the arena in Tokyo City, Ryuga waits on the field flanked by his cronies. He scoffs at the so-called Dragon Slayer, grumbling that all that bragging means nothing if he doesn't show up. Turning to the referee, who happens to be part of his own gang, Ryuga confirms that if our boy isn't there within a minute, victory defaults to him. His friends mutter that Haruto must have chickened out, convinced the underlings have already softened him up. Up in the stands, Rini sits among the crowd, nerves eating away at her. Suddenly, our hero arrives in the arena. Ryuga and his friends freeze, shock flashing across their faces at the sight of Kuju still breathing. Ryuga cannot wrap his head around how Haruto made it here, but Kuju just smirks and asks if he forgot they have business to settle. Wasting no time, our boy tells the referee to get the duel started. The official announces the match between Class 3A's Sumeragi Ryuga and Class 2F's Kuju Haruto, and the signal is given. Ryuga's mind is still reeling, but he decides to go full throttle from the first move. Flames burst from his hands as he launches huge blasts of fire, daring Haruto to fight back. A bystander mutters that Ryuga is using Hellfire Grab, a top-tier spell only the elite can handle. Ryuga hurls the blazing infernos at our boy, pouring every drop of power into the attack. certain that a direct hit will end things. However, Kuju notices how the flaming shots warp time as they zip through the air. He sees faint shadows of where they were and shimmering traces of where they will be. By reading their movements, he obliterates every single fire bullet before it can even graze him. Ryuga stands there, staring as if his brain has stopped working, while Kuju emerges completely unharmed. Lifting off the ground, our protagonist hovers in midair, surrounded by his own fierce blaze. Ryuga gapes, stunned that even his sneaky double-hit trap failed. Now it is Kuju's turn to counter. He fires chrono rays at Ryuga, slamming him so hard that he is thrown across the arena floor. As the challenger lies sprawled out, our boy remains aloft, calmly floating above him. The entire crowd watches in stunned silence, unable to believe someone with zero magic capacity could pull this off. Meanwhile, Rina feels only relief and happiness, realizing our boy is no longer the Kuju she once knew. Kuju Haruto leans toward his opponent, asking if he truly intended to go all out from the very beginning. Ryuga snarls back, calling him a bastard and shouting for our boy to back the hell off as frustration boils over. Driven by pure rage, the challenger launches a massive blaze. Off to the side, old Haruto comments coolly that this is the Flame Dragon's Ardent Fist, a melee spell that turns close-range punches into scorching 3,000-degree fire. However, it only burns what it touches. Without flinching, our protagonist stops the incoming inferno with his bare hand. Ryuga's grin turns savage, convinced this is the end. He believes that because Kuju grabbed live fire, he is certain to burst into flames. Instead, Ryuga's eyes widen as Haruto locks onto his wrist and slams him into the dirt with ease. With his opponent down, our boy pulls back for a finishing blow, driving his fist toward the challenger's face. Panic flashes in Ryuga's chest, but the punch smashes into the ground, barely missing. Calm and composed, Kuju lets him know the flames are already out of gas. Ryuga sneers like a brat in a full meltdown, snapping that Kuju is still a worthless bastard. He then yells for his team to move. His crew jumps in immediately, channeling their energy straight into him. Old Haruto raises an eyebrow as the crowd dumps their magic into the challenger, breaking the rules in broad daylight. Our protagonist asks how much power this guy truly needs from everyone else. Suddenly, Ryuga's body contorts and twists into something unnatural. Fire bursts upward like a massive flare, and even Kuju looks momentarily taken aback. When the transformation settles, Ryuga has become a towering fire giant. Old Haruto mutters that this beast, powered by the pooled mana of an entire squad, won't go down from just a few swings. Our hero immediately recognizes the seriousness of the situation, as the dragon-like creature fires waves of flame capable of flattening buildings. Kuju dodges frantically, barely staying ahead of the inferno. He tries firing a chrono ray, but it glances off harmlessly, leaving him pinned against a wall as fire closes in from every direction. Then, our boy spots a strange ripple in the air, a distortion where time itself seems to be glitching. An idea sparks. If he can reach that anomaly on the monster's hand, he can tear it wide open. Kuju locks in and fires a lightning-quick slash, triggering a massive explosion of fire from the creature's body. He calls out to his older self, stating he needs to use the plushie again. His future version asks if he is truly going through with that plan once more, but agreement is given, as there is no other option. Without hesitation, our protagonist throws plushie into the air and begins chanting the stop chain spell. The chains grab the plushie, allowing our hero to leap high above the monster's head. From that vantage point, he spots the warped tear in time pulsing at its peak. Kuju unsheathes his sword and slices straight down, cutting through the beast like paper. He lands with perfect control as the creature's body splits apart and collapses into massive chunks. From the wreckage, Ryuga emerges shaking and utterly stunned. He shouts at Kuju, demanding to know why the fire giant isn't regenerating. Our boy doesn't bother explaining. Instead, he drives a precise punch into Ryuga's chest, slamming him down hard. The referee's voice rings out across the arena, clear and final. Kuju Haruto has won the duel. Inside a cozy restaurant, Rini and her 4 friends throw a small party for Kuju Haruto to celebrate his victory. Rina slides a plate of food toward him, congratulating him on crushing the magic duel. While the girls glow with happiness, Haruto looks down, slightly embarrassed, and mumbles his thanks. When Rina announces it is his job to lead the toast, everyone lifts a glass in anticipation. He nods and raises his drink, clinking it against theirs as the group echoes back with cheerful cheers and wide grins. One of Rini's friends sighs with relief, admitting she is glad the senior is finally dropping out for good. Another girl complains about how that jerk treated the school like his private mansion, using his wealth to fix every problem. A third mentions his history of harassment and how he cornered girls whenever he pleased. Someone leans toward Rini, whispering that she likely would have ended up under his thumb if he had stayed. Rina nods grimly in agreement. The conversation turns to our protagonist when one girl asks about the 100 million credits riding on the duel. Kuju freezes as the reality of the bet hits him. He had completely forgotten. The girls stare in shock, demanding to know how he could overlook such a sum, but our hero simply shrugs and says money has never really been his thing. Their jaws drop, and for a moment, they look at him as if he is their personal hero. The mood shifts when a girl asks what is exactly going on between him and Rini. Kuju's brain blanks, and a flustered Rina accidentally spits her juice across the table. She glares at her friend, Akane, who just grins and points out that Haruto challenged the top student in school specifically for her sake. With the table hyper-focused on their relationship, our boy's mind short-circuits. He mutters an excuse about needing the bathroom and makes his escape. One girl yells after him, annoyed by his sudden departure, while the others continue discussing him. One frowns, noting that his vibe feels different lately, while another agrees that he seems steadier, or perhaps just older. Another points out that Kuju used to be a ghost with a poor reputation. Rina notes that everything shifted recently, adding that our protagonist has had her back since they were children and surely always will. Her mind drifts to the secret only the two of them share. Meanwhile, Kuju stands in the bathroom rinsing his hands under cold water. His phone lights up with messages from Rina, apologizing for her friend's interrogation, but our hero tells her not to overthink it. Looking at his reflection, he realizes he hasn't seen things look so lovely in a long time. For the first time, he understands that the future is not set in stone. Suddenly, his older self appears on his shoulder, breaking his train of thought. Kuju sighs and asks what he wants, telling the future version to shut up since they are heading home soon. However, old Haruto shakes his head, stating that things have just become serious. When Kuju asks about the emergency, his older version looks grave and declares the time has come to reveal the real reason he traveled from the past. He demands our boy's full attention, then reveals that the little sister he thought died long ago is actually alive. Kuju feels his stomach drop, unable to speak as memories of Ria's funeral flood back. Old Haruto's gaze softens as he explains that in this world, she is still breathing. He orders our protagonist to get ready immediately. They have to go save her right now. Kuju thinks back to when his little sister handed him a scarf that radiated warmth. She was just a tiny child then, so thrilled with her solo creation that she practically bounced around the room, repeating that she had made it with her own 2 hands. Our boy felt a rush of pride seeing her so happy. Flashing a pure, innocent grin, Ria passed the scarf over. He blinked, caught off guard, and silently wondered if he could really pull off wearing it. Ria's expression dimmed, fearing her big brother hated the gift despite her effort. Haruto quickly explained it wasn't like that at all and insisted he wanted it. Her eyes lit up again as she wrapped the scarf snugly around his neck, telling him to just accept it. She giggled, admitting her stitching was poor, and casually reminded him that Christmas was tomorrow. Ria slapped on a fake mustache and teased him, calling the gift a present straight from Santa Claus. Our protagonist felt his chest swell with happiness as he thanked her. Ria then said they would celebrate Christmas a day late, after her ballet performance, because she wanted a present from him as well. He remembers, however, that he never got the chance to keep that promise. The next day, Ria and their parents boarded a flight that never made it home. The plane went down, and they were gone forever. Suddenly, old Haruto's voice cuts through his thoughts, checking if he is even listening. They are both sitting on the living room sofa. Kuju gets up and walks over to a framed photo of his lost family. He apologizes to his older self and asks him to repeat the information. His future version tells him to snap out of it and begins laying out the situation. Our hero is about to take on a mission he absolutely cannot screw up. Kuju understands, but he first needs to know how his sister could be alive when everyone else on that flight died. To him, it sounds impossible. Old Haruto asks what Kuju knows about the crash. Kuju explains it was reportedly caused by mid-air disintegration at high altitude. His older self points out that while it looked that way to the public, the phenomenon is beyond current science. Our boy narrows his eyes as the elder explains that a space-time rift opened in the sky that day, a tier connecting this world to another dimension. When the rift appeared, it warped gravity, and the plane carrying his family got too close, making the aircraft impossible to control. Kuju feels a chill run through him. Every passenger was declared dead, yet his older self reminds him that Ria's body was never recovered. She alone was pulled into the dimensional gap, a place where time barely moves and space follows different rules. Even if years pass in this world for her, it will feel shorter than a blink. When the rift opens again, Ria will drop back into this world. His future version explains that this is the sole reason he appeared, to train and guide Haruto. He warns that by the time our protagonist normally detects a rift, it is already too late. Kuju must act before it is over. Old Haruto pleads with him to rescue their sister. Our hero's face hardens with resolve as he agrees, asking where the next rift will appear. Plushy Haruto informs him it will open above Tokyo Tower, specifically above the highest floor of the Sky Castle dungeon. The next day, the two stand near Tokyo Tower. Plushy Haruto comments that he never imagined Kuju would buy out every attack item and healing potion from the shop. Our boy shrugs, noting it was only possible because of the cash he earned grinding in the Crystal Labyrinth. Around his neck, he wears the scarf Ria once gifted him. Plushy Haruto questions why he is wearing it in the middle of June, but Kuju sidesteps, claiming he simply gets cold easily. His older self shifts focus to the gate on the observation deck leading to the Sky Castle dungeon. In exactly 24 hours, a space-time rift will open 300 meters above the dungeon floor, and Ria will fall through. Old Haruto warns that if Kuju is not there in time, she will fall to her death. Our protagonist clenches his fists, fully aware of the stakes. This time he chooses to wear the space-time mage's robe. Determination burns in his eyes as he vows to save Ria. Our protagonist stands parked in front of Tokyo Tower. Right at the entrance, he is met by two armed men who inform him that a dungeon gate has appeared on the observation deck, accessible only to A-rank adventurers. Old Haruto asks what move he is planning, With time running out, the elder wants to skip the nonsense and take a shortcut. Without missing a beat, Kuju Haruto taps into his magic and begins leaping up the side of the tower. His older self cheers, impressed by how fast our boy is picking up these techniques, though Kuju simply shoots back that he is annoying as hell. In an instant, our hero reaches the top floor and peers through the glass. Inside stands Kurogane, backed by 3 armed bodyguards. After recognizing the man, old Haruto mutters that Kurogane is a real pain. Kuju wonders if he actually knows him, and his future self provides the intel. Kurogane currently runs the Minato branch of the Adventurer Guild and is known for being stubborn, serious, and having zero chill. He also knows Kurogane's next move, to scope out the gate and stand watch. Neither Haruto has the luxury of waiting. Kuju is itching to barrel through that gate immediately. He breaks a window and moves inside. Kurogane hears the shattering glass and demands to know what is happening, ordering a guard to investigate. The guard peeks through the window and reports that nothing is there. Before he can finish speaking, our protagonist, now standing directly behind him, drops the man with a swift blow. Using material rewind, Kuju patches the broken window to hide his entry. Not long after, that same guard runs up to Kurogane and reports an intruder, a massive unit way out of his league. Kurogane, surprised but confident, decides to handle it personally and orders his squad to roll out. As they leave, the guard reveals himself as Kuju, having borrowed the uniform to blend in. Once the area is clear, our boy and his older self are left alone with the wide-open space-time portal. Old Haruto tells him to get moving, and Kuju steps through. They find themselves floating inside a twisted rift where everything is upside down. The elder explains that in the Sky Castle dungeon, going down the stairs actually means ascending. Our protagonist finally understands why it is called a dungeon despite being in the sky. His future self adds that the place is loaded with occult energy, warning that ghost mobs and undead are about to crash the party. Kuju scoffs at the idea of an army of corpses hanging out under a bright blue sky, grumbling that the setting does not match his sword-swinging style. Old Haruto reminds him of the light element he infused into his sword, explaining that is exactly why he has been training him so hard. Moving ahead, our hero encounters a ghost making its debut. He draws his sword and slices the spirit down with a single clean strike. His future self explains that, in his original timeline, this dungeon vanished shortly after its discovery, leaving its depths unexplored. After dispatching the ghost, Kuju floats upward while old Haruto mentions he has only fragments of information about the layout. Our protagonist bursts into a full sprint as the elder explains that Sky Castle has 100 floors, with a mini-boss every 12th floor. Kuju calculates that there are 5 bosses in total. Checking the time, he sees only 20 hours remaining, leaving no room to waste on low-tier mobs. Suddenly, a stampede of monsters closes in from all directions. The horde locks onto them, charging with bloodlust and surrounding the pair. Just as the situation turns dire, the 3-headed Cerberus bursts onto the scene to back Kuju up. The massive beast lands with an earth-shaking crash, crushing monsters under its weight. Our protagonist tells the giant canine they do not have a second to lose, bracing himself to tear through the swarm at maximum speed. A swarm of hideous monsters charges all at once, but Cerberus leaps forward, tearing into them as if they are made of paper. Our boy blinks, caught off guard by the sheer speed and strength of his summon. Plushy Haruto explains that the beast's title marks it as no ordinary creature. It is a sacred summon whose attacks are naturally infused with holy power. Now, Kuju Haruto and his older self are perched on the beast's back as he orders the creature to bulldoze everything in their path. The magic display flashes floor after floor, 6th, 7th, 8th, ticking up at a wild pace. In a blink, they smash past the Sky Castle dungeon's 20th floor. Both Harutos are stunned by the velocity of their ascent. Once there, our protagonist scans the area, taking in the bizarre sights until he notices a strange circle engraved on the ground. He hops down, recognizing the first boss checkpoint. Plushy Haruto confirms he must defeat this boss to unlock the stairs. Thick red smoke curls around the room as a monster materializes atop a 2-horse chariot. It soars down and lands, revealing not 1, but 3 opponents. A fallen noble family's son, their lady, and their master. All 3 are undead A-rank threats. Plushy Haruto stares, baffled by how 3 people managed to fit onto one chariot, but our hero does not care about their history. If he cannot defeat a few corpses, he has no hope of saving Ria. His future self tries to issue a warning, but the trio rushes in with swords drawn. Plushy Haruto asks if he plans to use the items from the guild shop, and Kuju gives a quick nod. He activates his magic, the Eye of Time, allowing our protagonist to see exactly how the next few seconds will unfold. He pulls out orichalcum knives glowing with light magic and hurls them at the undead. As they charge together, our boy goes toe-to-toe with each one, noticing the lady is more ferocious than her companions. One blade punches through the noble master's heart, and though the master tosses him aside, Haruto flips mid-air to land steadily. He has been maneuvering them into a perfect formation with surgical precision. Each knife is now lodged in their bodies and charged. He channels his magic, detonating the knives in a blinding explosion that vanishes the monsters under flames and smoke. Plushy Haruto points out that those knives are crafted from the rarest metals and cost 100,000 credits each. He mutters about how tossing millions of credits worth of gear for an easy win seems insane. However, our boy notes that he has only destroyed their physical forms. As predicted, they reform as ghostly figures. Since physical damage is useless against ghost types, he begins chanting a light enchantment. Leaping skyward, our hero comes smashing down with chaos meteor magic, slicing the spirits into glittering ash. The system pings their victory over the fallen noble family. It also flashes that Kuju Haruto has leveled up 5 times. His swordsman skill has jumped 8 levels, and he has raked in over 2 million credits. Suddenly, a hidden tunnel splits open beneath his feet. Our protagonist stands at the mouth of the new passage and murmurs a promise to Ria, telling her to hang on because her big brother is coming to save her. Up on the 40th floor of the Sky Castle dungeon, Kuju's 3-headed beast is busy tearing apart the Lamia undead queen. As soon as the Snake Queen falls, Cerberus trots back to our boy, ruffling its heads like a personal puppy and slobbering all over his face. Plushy Haruto watches the mess, muttering that Cerberus is basically a pet at this point rather than a holy creature. With the queen dead, only 3 bosses remain. Fast forward to the 50th floor, and future Haruto suddenly tells Cerberus to halt. Our protagonist turns, wondering why they are stopping here. His older self warns that this is not a floor to mess up on and orders him to activate the Eye of Time. Squinting at the wall ahead, our hero spots a hidden chamber. Plushy explains that in his original timeline, the dungeon vanished before anyone could explore it, but this time, someone is actually going to clear it. Kuju inserts a letter into a gap in the wall as instructed, and a secret doorway slides open. Leaving Cerberus to stand guard, Kuju steps into a massive hall featuring a throne carved from blue and gold diamonds. He glances at Plushy to ensure this isn't a prank, and the elder swears he is being serious. The system identifies the treasure, an Akashic crystal capable of awakening dormant abilities. Curiosity gets the better of our boy, and he slaps his palm against it. The crystal explodes into shimmering shards, and new skill data floods the screen. Gravity Bomb, Avatar Replay, Quick Body Level 3, and Stop Chain Level 2. His potential Unleash level also jumps to 3, providing a 75% boost. Plushy Haruto looks stunned that the boy snagged Avatar Replay so early. When our hero asks what the skill actually does, his future version tells him to just try it in a fight. Kuju shrugs and heads out. Moments later, they reach the 60th floor. Awaiting them is Zombie Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, surrounded by a disgusting swarm. Kuju asks for a weak spot, but Plushy just lists its bio: acidic sludge, self-healing, and a terrible stench. Deadpan, our protagonist, tells him to provide useful intel instead of a biography. Suddenly, the monster swoops in with incredible speed, its rotten claws slicing toward Haruto's chest. Kuju flickers, shifting his body into a light form. Plushy lets out a satisfied sigh, glad to see the ability tested in combat. In an instant, the boy widens the gap using Avatar Replay. The one-eyed beast dives again, but our boy is ready with Quick Body Level 3. He lashes out with a blinding beam, sending the monster flying, then launches into the air. Tapping into Avatar Replay, Kuju conjures duplicates from his past self. Within seconds, multiple versions of Haruto surround the boss, confusing it completely. Each clone dives in, slashing from every angle. Suddenly, Kuju casts Chaos Meteor Magic. The clones close in, swords gleaming. In a panic, the boss sprays dissolving goo, but it is not enough. All the copies unleash radiant beams at once, erasing the monster from existence. Watching this, old Haruto quips that Kuju could call himself a ninja master. Haruto rolls his eyes, calling the title lame. As another underground passage reveals itself, he mutters that only 2 bosses are left. Suddenly, his head feels as if it is being crushed. Everything spins. Our protagonist collapses to the ground as his future version calls out his name in a panic, terrified that something has gone horribly wrong. Kuju Haruto's mind drifts back to 3 years ago when he and his little sister were hanging out at home. While he sits feeling low, Ria chats away beside him, trying to lift his mood with her bright smile and silly words. She tells her he will give it his all and won't quit halfway through. She hits him with a pleading look, prompting our boy to ask if she really wants to go for it. Ria nods, bursting with excitement. After thinking it over, Haruto finally gives in and tells her to pick out the shoes she likes best to show him later. Her eyes sparkle as she asks if he means it, and he gives her a simple yes. Ria instantly flips open a book filled with shoes and starts scanning the pages. Seeing her so hyped up makes his chest feel warm. The memory shifts to the inside of a dance school for young girls. Ria wears the shiny new shoes Kuju bought just for her. She runs up to her friends in the hall, thanks them for waiting, and announces she is ready to roll. As she beams about how happy she is to do this together, our protagonist waves his sister goodbye, a little stunned by how bright and cheerful she looks. One girl whispers about how good-looking her brother is, and another giggles that it is nice having him as their chaperone. Someone laughs, saying it feels like spring is in the air, but Ria shrugs them off, embarrassed. The teacher claps her hands, and all the girls start practicing their dance moves. At first, Ria seems a bit lost, but as the music flows, she gains confidence and begins to dance with ease. Meanwhile, our hero leans back against the wall, watching her twirl around with pure joy. When class ends, Ria waves goodbye to her friends and leaves with her brother. She tells Kuju that today was awesome. Although she explains ballet is tough, she is determined to give it her all. Haruto nods, telling her he is proud she is working so hard. Sensing something, Ria brings up the shoes and asks about the cost of the lessons. He shrugs it off, saying it wasn't expensive because he doesn't want her to worry about money. Ria keeps talking, pointing out their parents are overseas at an academic conference, so the funds likely came from his own pocket. She wants to know if she is right. Our protagonist realizes she has figured it out and tries to calm her, saying it is fine and she doesn't need to stress. He asks if she had fun today, as seeing her find something she truly enjoys is all he has ever wanted for her. Hearing that makes little Ria tear up. She thanks him, suddenly clings to his arm, and says she loves him so much. Kuju warns her that grabbing him like this in public could be dangerous, but Ria shakes her head, insisting she wants to stay like this with her brother forever. She decides right then that tonight she will pour her heart into cooking him dinner, just to show how much he means to her. Suddenly, Kuju Haruto jolts awake, realizing he is sprawled on top of his three-headed beast while his future version sits beside him. Plushy Haruto glances over and says he finally decided to rejoin the living. Our boy groans, asking if he actually passed out. His old self tells him that he knocked out because he burned through too much stamina. Haruto wants to confirm if the top-tier elixir from the guild shop was used. Checking his system screen, his future self assures him it has been taken care of. He adds that while physical injuries are gone, the potion cannot help with mental exhaustion. Our hero clenches his fists, worrying about how little time remains. Plushy tells him straight up that only 5 hours are left. Summoning his strength, Kuju pushes himself to his feet and orders everyone to move out immediately. Silently, he promises Ria that he will take her to her ballet classes again someday. Plushy watches our protagonist stand with fierce determination, thinking that only one of the 5 intermediate bosses remains. Once they crush that, it is straight to the final boss. But looking at our boy's drained body, he doubts Haruto can keep pushing much longer. At this point, future Haruto knows there is only one card left to play, his last resort. They reach the 80th floor of the Sky Castle dungeon, where one of the 5 bosses, the Acid King Mummy, lies in wait. Kuju Haruto wastes no time, unleashing space-time magic and launching a gravity beam directly at the creature. His system window instantly announces victory as the Acid King Mummy is wiped out. This kill levels Haruto up twice and boosts his swordsman skills by 4 levels, netting him 3,561,110 credits. Taking down the Mummy King leaves our boy feeling absolutely drained. Cerberus acts like a loyal housedog, licking him gratefully while the youth gives the beast a thankful pat. When the screen presents an option to consume an elixir, Kuju taps yes without hesitation. The moment he gulps it down, his whole body buzzes with raw energy. Plushy Haruto tilts his head and asks if he wants a quick break, but our protagonist shoots back that there is no time to waste. He knows only 3 hours remain before his sister emerges from the space-time hole, and he is dead set on reaching the top floor as fast as possible. Later, the system flashes with a new notification. They have reached the 100th floor. A wave of relief washes over Kuju as they finally arrive. Plushy Haruto notes it is time to face the dungeon boss. Our hero and his future version stand before a massive door where the older Haruto warns that, after this fight, he will land exactly where the space-time rift appears. Kuju's resolve remains solid. He simply wants to get this over with. They step into the hall toward a giant throne sitting at the center. Atop that throne lounges the dungeon boss, the god of the underworld, Soul Reaper. Though the boss is a mere skeleton crowned in solid gold, its eyes glow red like fresh blood. Kuju and his future self glare at the entity, fury burning in their chests. The plushie lifts a paw toward the monster, signaling to our protagonist that this creature does not even exist in the World 1 database. The monster locks its gaze onto Haruto and scoffs at the presence of a single human. Hearing the creature speak surprises our boy. This being possesses real intelligence and fluent human language. The monster smirks, noting that for a pathetic race that usually requires a group to function, Kuju has managed to reach this far solo. It admits the feat is worth a shred of praise. As the beast lifts both hands, our hero raises his sword in response. The monster formally introduces itself as the god of the underworld and taunts him to begin, promising to lay the nastiest curse imaginable upon him. Plushy Haruto quickly explains that the enemy's weapon is the curse-commanding divine scythe. He warns that it is actually a casting staff for top-tier illusion magic, loaded with permanent psychic status effects and vicious debuffs. Kuju is not fazed by the threats. Ready to end the battle, he instantly pinpoints the monster's weak spot. Activating Quick Body Magic Level 3, our protagonist launches himself forward at blinding speed. The monster's eyes flicker with shock as Kuju barrels ahead, closing the distance with zero hesitation. The boss retaliates by hurling blazing magical fire, but the flames barely slow our hero down. In a flash, Kuju is at the throne and thrusts his sword into the weak point. However, the boss reveals he only attacked a clone. Suddenly appearing behind the entity, Haruto slashes down onto its skull and activates Stop Chain. Heavy magical chains erupt to wrap around the monster. The creature snarls that such curses will never bind a god, shattering the chains as if they were paper. Fear jolts through our boy at the sight. Now seething with rage, the monster rises to strike back while Kuju's future self yells at our hero in a panic. While Kuju Haruto attempts to calculate his next move, the monster smashes him with a brutal punch that launches our boy across the ground. He springs back to his feet without missing a beat. The boss blinks in surprise as the youth slips past 2 consecutive attacks, even with a god-tier scythe swinging his way. The creature seethes with disbelief, It prides itself on speed and views this human as a wingless worm forced to scuttle through the dirt. Radiating arrogance, the monster threatens to wreck Haruto's legs to ensure he can no longer interfere. Dark energy swirls as the entity activates its curse dimension, causing flames to erupt beneath the massive throne. In an instant, our protagonist finds himself hanging upside down as twisted magic flips his world on its head. The monster cackles at the sight of our hero dangling helplessly. Kuju's eyes widen as he stares at the floor looming overhead until the ground suddenly shatters, sending him plunging through the crumbling debris. He grits his teeth in frustration. After fighting tooth and nail to reach the 100th floor, he is now falling like dead weight. The monster mocks him with a voice dripping with curses, promising that he will no longer dart around so freely. It summons the cursed scythe, a sight that makes the boy's chest tighten with fear. However, Kuju's gaze sharpens with resolve. Realizing he must take a risk to change the tide, he flings his enchanted knives and commands them to detonate. Still plummeting, his body picks up blistering speed as a wall appears in his path. Instincts take over, and our hero rams his sword into the stone to halt his descent. The monster gawks, baffled by the teen's quick thinking under pressure. Clinging to the wall, Kuju realizes this endless fall is likely an illusion, a specialty of the creature's magic. He concludes he fell into a trap and racks his brain for a way to shatter the spell. Before he can act, the monster spews blazing fire directly at him. Our protagonist scrambles to dodge, but magical flames lash around his leg and begin yanking him back. With a twisted grin, the boss announces that Haruto will become a guinea pig for its spells. It snarls that the grudges of slaughtered humans will gnaw at his flesh, musing whether the hatred of his own kind or the underworld's scythe will end him first. Kuju clenches his jaw, desperate to break out of the warped dimension but unsure how to succeed. As the monster hums a cold farewell, demonic flames smother his body. He strains every muscle to rip himself free, wondering if this is truly how it ends, burned out in a hellhole. Suddenly, Ria's voice echoes in his ears, calling his name. Out of nowhere, plushy Haruto activates Stop Chain Level 78, sending powerful magical chains whipping around the monster in a violent spiral. Kuju is stunned to see him. With a quivering voice, the plushie admits this is his final shot. Massive electric pulses burst from the small frame, backing our protagonist's assault with everything he has left. A gigantic explosion erupts, flooding the space with searing light so intense that our hero cannot open his eyes. When his vision finally clears, he sees a young man standing tall before him. The figure speaks in a calm, cool tone, remarking that it would be a real pain if Kuju died here. Only then does our boy realize the truth. His future self, restored to his original body, stands right before his eyes. Future Kuju channels his magic, causing time to snap into reverse. Our protagonist blinks, stunned, as his surroundings rewind like an old tape. The cracked ground seals and his body shoots back into place before the fall. Once again, he stands before the monster. Rage burns in the creature's eyes, baffled that a mere human could cancel a divine spell. Future Kuju glances over, smirking at the fact that it has been ages since he looked like this. The boss scoffs, questioning what difference another pathetic human could possibly make, and declares the opening act is finally over. Rising above them, the monster gestures for them to step forward, ready to unveil the masterpiece of its magical research. Red smoke billows out, spawning countless hands and twisted faces that laugh with eerie glee. The god of the underworld proclaims he is about to rain divine judgment on these sinful mortals, as an endless cyclone of souls swirls around him, filling the hall with a demonic roar. Future Kuju realizes with cold clarity that this monster can spawn A++ rank creatures at will. He yells at our boy to get moving, promising to handle the bottom feeders while ordering Haruto to take out the Soul Reaper. Our protagonist wonders how something this powerful could be categorized as just a god-tier monster. His future self tells him to stop worrying, reminding him that he has already mastered space and time magic. If anyone can pull this off, it is Kuju, because they are one and the same. Determination floods every vein as Haruto clenches his fists. Future Kuju urges him on and begins whispering the plan, letting every detail slide silently into the boy's mind. Meanwhile, the god of the underworld commands his soul legion to tear both of them apart, atom by atom. The shrieking spirits dive for the two versions of Haruto like banshees. Both the young and old Kuju blast forward, unleashing everything they have. The older Haruto activates his gravity domain, yanking the souls toward himself like iron filings to a magnet. With a taunting grin, he dares them to stop floating and take their shot. Our hero rockets toward the monster with blistering speed. Behind him, his future self shouts encouragement, casting a speed enhancement field to give Kuju an extra burst. Fueled by the spell, our boy closes the gap in a blink. The monster reels in shock, calling Kuju a filthy little worm and ordering him to die. Scarlet rays explode from the curse dimension, slicing through the air, but our protagonist sees right through the trick. Having witnessed it before, he shreds the spell apart and drives toward the monster's weak spot. The god of the underworld is left gaping, roaring insults about Haruto's insolent existence. Kuju quickly notices the monster's attacks are all flash, designed only to waste time. He opts for a direct kill shot, aiming for the exposed tear in time inside the monster's heart. Channeling Chaos Meteor, he casts the spell with a snarl. The monster spits curses, warning him not to overestimate himself, but Haruto drives the attack straight into the boss's core. The monster screeches in agony, crying out for its curse edge. Kuju activates avatar replay immediately, splitting and softening the impact as he crashes back down. Without missing a beat, our hero rises again and slams his final strike straight into the monster's heart. Kuju drives his sword into what should be the monster's heart, but as a grin spreads across the creature's face, our boy realizes there is no heart at all. In the next instant, the monster lashes out, slicing him clean in half across the gut. Off to the side, the older Haruto's eyes brim with tears as he watches the horror unfold. The monster lets out an ugly laugh, mocking Kuju for believing its weakness was in its chest. It turns out one of the underworld god's most deceptive abilities is faking their own vulnerable points. With a cruel smirk, the beast reveals the chest was merely bait to throw him off. Kuju lies there, seemingly cut down, while the monster laughs hysterically. Its gaze shifts toward the future Haruto, growling for him to step forward. The older man stands frozen, losing his composure at the sight of our protagonist's body torn in two. His mind races, desperately trying to discern if a true weak point even exists. The monster casually explains that gods do not possess built-in flaws. If one existed, it would be as untouchable as the concept of the god itself, like the forbidden crown of Hades. It taunts him further, noting that no divine voice has arrived to save Kuju's life. The older Haruto clenches his fists, trying to rally our protagonist by shouting that they finally have some intel. Suddenly, our hero rises to his feet. The monster's jaw drops, unable to process how he remains alive after being split in half. Kuju calmly explains that the creature didn't actually cut him. The body that was slashed begins to fade like an illusion. He reveals that just before his torso was split, he swapped himself with a decoy using avatar replay. While the monster focused on the double, the real Kuju had been lying low, hidden from view. Now, he sits perched comfortably on the monster's shoulders, leaving the entity completely dumbfounded. The monster reels, insisting no one could survive a direct strike from its divine scythe. Kuju admits it should have been a death sentence, but he had cast a space-time rollback beforehand. He explains that right before the killing blow, time rewound for him like a video skipping back. Our protagonist recalls his future self's earlier warning that this skill was incredibly complex and could not be used twice on the same person. A satisfied smile creeps onto his face, glad the risky plan worked. He presses his blade against the monster's neck while the future Haruto activates Stop Chain at level 78. The older version calls out with fierce excitement, declaring it is time to set the final scene. He reveals the true weak point is the crown floating above the monster's head, including the head itself. Both versions of Haruto stand united, ready to obliterate the creature and blast it into microscopic dust. Suddenly, Kuju's mind flashes with a vision of his little sister Ria, hearing her voice softly say she loves him. That memory steals his will. With a roar that shakes the room, our protagonist yells about his brotherly power and lops the monster's head off with one vicious swing. As the severed head falls, it shatters into 100 fragments. The massive body collapses, and every tormented soul trapped within the chamber finally fades away. A system window pops up, announcing he has slain the Soul Reaper, god of the underworld, earning 124,356 XP and 35,635,343 credits. Kuju smirks, relief washing over him as he whispers that the extermination is officially finished. A glowing pathway materializes, stretching toward the top floor. The older Haruto urges our boy to follow, saying it is finally time to reach the highest level. Kuju nods without hesitation. Half joking, he wonders aloud if that is really what he will look like when he grows up, pointing at his older self. The future version picks up on the tease and threatens to smack him. Our hero grumbles that it would have been easier if the future version had helped from the start, but his older self explains this was a last resort with a much deeper purpose. He tells Kuju to cut the chatter. They have no time to waste before the space-time hole opens. With a wave of a hand, they reach the top floor of the Sky Castle dungeon. The sky is breathtakingly clear and bright. Suddenly, the older Haruto points upward. Side by side, they look into the vast sky, their eyes widening in shock as they spot Ria trapped inside the swirling space-time hole. Our hero and the older Haruto stand together beneath the warped tier in space and time. The future Haruto informs him that the rift will remain tethered to this world for exactly 9 minutes and 48 seconds, assuring him there is no need to rush. Suddenly, the older man begins levitating toward the tear in the sky. Kuju stares, caught off guard by the sudden ascent, but his future self merely flicks a finger toward the glowing steps forming beneath his feet and tells him to pick up the pace. Kuju climbs after him until both are positioned beside the gaping hole in space-time. Their eyes lock on Ria, who lies fast asleep inside the phenomenon. Our protagonist softly calls her name, and she blinks her eyes open to look at him. He hesitates, lifting a hand toward her and promising he is right there. However, the older Haruto steps in and tells him to stay calm, explaining that the world's rules do not apply inside that rift. Since only space-time magic functions there, the future version will enter to drag her out with his spells. He warns our boy to be ready to catch her properly before slipping into the rift. Once inside, the older Haruto weaves his magic to force Ria out. Kuju shouts from the exterior, desperate to know his role. As the siblings gaze at one another, the older Haruto suddenly flickers. Our hero's eyes widen in confusion just as the rift begins to shrink. It is sealing much sooner than expected. While Kuju stands powerless, his future self braces against the collapse, pushing his power to the limit. He yells for our protagonist to pull Ria toward him while he tugs from the other side. Both versions of the hero pour in every ounce of strength. The older Haruto screams a warning that if her body is caught when the rift seals, she will be torn apart. Furthermore, even if she is freed, she will fall to her death if Kuju misses the catch. Our boy nods sharply, accepting the risk. As the older man roars for him to act, our protagonist leaps forward, snatching Ria's hand and yanking her against his chest. With his sister wrapped safely in his arms, Ria clings to him, her eyes brimming with relief. Kuju calls out to his future self, insisting he is next and must hurry. However, the older Haruto remains motionless. When Kuju demands to know what is wrong, his future self quietly explains that this is where they part ways. Our hero's heart sinks as the older man reveals he has reached his limit and can no longer maintain his form. That final move drained every remaining Chronos factor. He admits he has no way of returning to his own time. Kuju tries to protest, but the future Haruto just chuckles, confessing he was never a model student and spent too much time whining or fumbling the small details. He tells our boy that he is the type who lets feelings interfere just as progress begins. Even so, he claims there are no regrets in fighting alongside someone with such a good heart. The older Haruto explains the rift will never open again and offers a final goodbye. Though our protagonist refuses to accept the loss, his future self insists he is leaving his hopes behind. It is now up to Kuju to save the world. Kuju clenches his jaw and promises to do so. After hearing the vow, the older man turns to Ria, expressing his happiness that she is safe. Ria quietly wonders if this stranger is her brother too. As the future Haruto allows old memories to flicker through his mind, a small smile appears before the rift finally seals shut. Kuju is left feeling both crushed and grateful, having gained and lost someone dear all at once. It has been a day since Kuju Haruto cleared the Tokyo Tower Sky Castle dungeon. Currently, he is walking into his classroom at the Adventurer Cultivation Agency's high school division. As soon as he enters, he spots a crowd of girls gathered around his desk, claiming they have been waiting for him. Our protagonist cannot fathom why these third-year seniors are suddenly so interested in him. One student steps forward, explaining they are a delegation from the Ryuga Victims Association here to express their deepest thanks. The group bows in unison. A girl whispers to her friend about how satisfying it was to see that disgusting sex offender defeated, while her friend agrees, noting she no longer has to cry herself to sleep. They call Kuju their hero, and wonder who originally gave him the nickname God of Plagues. Our boy, however, simply wishes they would all calm down. He only wants a quiet, chill life. Suddenly, Sakurakuji, the gorgeous student council vice president, appears. She bows politely as the council's representative, apologizing for everything that happened with the former president. Haruto waves it off, telling her not to stress since none of it was her fault. Despite his reassurance, she still looks guilty and mentions she is about to take over as the next president. She asks if he would consider helping the school from the inside, as she is currently recruiting for the student council. Furthermore, she requests that he join as the leader of their mage security guard to guide other students. Our hero is not interested in any of it and rejects the offer immediately. Sakurakuji looks shocked, grabbing his hand and insisting she is willing to do whatever it takes to convince him. Watching from afar, Rini seems stunned by the sight. Another girl interrupts to inform Sakurakuji that class is starting. As the vice president leaves, she says they will resume the conversation during lunch and orders him to stay behind afterward. Haruto looks drained by the mounting chaos. Later, after class, our protagonist sits on a rooftop bench staring at his system window. It displays his profile stats, an adventurer level of 98 with a current rank of C, though the system notes an upgrade to A rank is required. His class is listed as Swordsman, with swordsmanship at level 64 and space-time magic at level 82. There is an error notification regarding an unknown skill, strongly advising him to report it to the guild. His potential unleash is at level 3 with a plus 75 bonus. Our boy thinks that with these stats, there is essentially no one left who could take him down. His memories flash through the monsters he has defeated, and he notices his credits have reached 43,435. He is fully aware that no normal high school student should possess this much cash. While he is outside eating his lunch, he hears the student council president calling for him. On the roof, the council members inform her that Haruto is missing. She looks annoyed, muttering that she specifically told him to stay put. Meanwhile, hidden from view, our hero eats peacefully while listening to their frantic search. He eventually strolls across the roof, realizing he needs a plan for the future. He turns to ask the plushie for ideas, but suddenly realizes his companion is nowhere to be found. He glances up at the sky, feeling oddly empty. Later, back at his apartment, Ria immediately complains that he is late, and she has been waiting forever. Her face then softens into a smile as she welcomes her big brother home. Kuju's heart warms at the sight, and he tells her that her brother is finally back. Ria catches Kuju Haruto off guard by whipping up a mouth-watering meal, bragging about the homemade spread her adorable self made just for him. She is not exactly thrilled when she noticed his gaze shifting between her food and the convenience store items he bought. Realizing he messed up, our boy quickly tries to defend himself, explaining he grabbed the snacks out of habit and nothing more. Slipping into a big sister act despite being the younger sibling, Ria scolds him for wasting money on pointless things without telling her. He nods, admitting his fault. and promises he won't do it again. She firmly reminds him to be more mindful now that they are living together, insisting they start saving properly. Feeling a warmth spread through his chest, our protagonist agrees completely. She gives him a soft smile and welcomes him home. Suddenly, our hero's mind flashes to the gentle grin of his future self. He looks at his sister and tells her it feels good to finally be back. Before they dig in, Ria pulls him over to their parents' framed photo to thank them for their upbringing and ask for their continued protection. They both close their eyes in silent prayer. Ria's eyes then catch the red scarf she knitted for him, wondering aloud if he has been wearing it all this time. When Kuju nods, she hugs him tight. With a small laugh, she points out it is already June, and both chuckle. Our protagonist mentions he gets cold easily, asking if she still remembers that about him. Sitting across from each other at the table, Ria announces it is time to eat. They fold their hands and pray before the meal. Ria feels genuinely happy to have cooked for her big brother, and Kuju thanks her. As he takes his first bite, she eagerly asks if he likes it. He assures her it is insanely good, claiming her cooking is on another level. Kuju then informs her he has already submitted the paperwork to the government, officially declaring his little sister alive and well. Ria's face lights up with relief, but her brows soon furrow in worry about the 2 years she lost. She is determined to catch up on her studies, but our protagonist reminds her of her dream to join the dance academy. She hesitates, asking if they can even afford it now. Our hero reassures her with a calm smile, saying money is the last thing she should worry about, even decades from now. In his mind, the screen flashes with his total of 43,454,435 credits. He jokes that she could still join the academy even when she is old and wrinkly. Ria giggles at the teasing, asking what nonsense he is spouting. Kuju's gaze falls on the stuffed plushie lying limp and lifeless on the shelf. She whispers her thanks to the brother who came from the future, and Kuju gives a quiet nod, acknowledging their debt of gratitude. His thoughts drift to the determined eyes of his future self, who entrusted him with the hope of saving the world. Haruto silently wonders how he is actually supposed to pull that off. Ria suddenly remembers something tucked in her clothes from the rescue and places a magical cube on the table. Kuju blinks in shock, recognizing it as a message cube. In an instant, blue lights shoot out to form a hologram of plushie Haruto. The hologram explains that if Kuju is seeing this, it means the plushie is no longer alive in this world. He notes that our boy is likely sitting there clueless and stuck. With a smirk, Plushie says that if he is wondering how to save the world, the greatest mage ever has already planned for this exact situation. He cheekily asks if he isn't the most awesome guy ever, inviting Kuju to praise him. Our protagonist just rolls his eyes, in no mood to stroke the ego of a hologram. Plushie Haruto then explains he will be sending a letter from Future Version 2, straight into Kuju's storage. Our hero raises an eyebrow, trying to wrap his head around what such a letter could even mean. His future self clarifies it is the key to saving the world. Finally, he asks Kuju if he understands the weight of the task, calling him their savior. Kuju receives multiple pings on the cube-shaped messenger from his future self. Suddenly, his system window pops up a notification. Letter to become a space-time mage Ver. 2 has landed in Haruto's storage. Plushie's voice echoes through the device, warning him not to slack off just because he is no longer around to breathe down his neck. As the hologram calls him a savior, Kuju feels his chest tighten with emotion. Nearby, Ria muses over the title, thinking that calling her brother a savior sounds incredibly badass. Our protagonist shuts the idea down with a tired sigh, insisting it is nothing special and involves far too much behind-the-scenes trouble. Meanwhile, on the top floor of the Adventurer Guild's main headquarters in Tokyo, the 7 sages, each holding an S-rank title, convene. Kurogane, the head of the Minato branch known as Iron, sits at a round table and pushes to move through the agenda. They discuss several recent events: the takedown of the Chaos Dragon at Nakano's train yard, an illegal break-in at the Shinjuku branch's restricted synthesis facility, and the unsanctioned raid on the Sky Castle dungeon. Iron points out a strong probability that the same individual pulled off all 3 incidents. The group is eager to identify the culprit. Among the 7 participants, Tantalum, the 5th sage, notes that the Sky Castle dungeon hasn't been properly investigated yet, and likely wasn't a true S-rank threat. Platinum, the 2nd sage, finds it hard to believe a single trespasser solo-raided such a place, while the 6th sage, Kiryu Muranasa, scoffs that it sounds impossible. OZ, the 3rd sage, suggests this could be a direct challenge to the guild's authority, while the 1st sage, Q, finds the prospect intriguing. As the 4th sage, Sire, cackles about the darkness such a person must carry, Tellurium, the 7th sage, calmly states that the target has been acquired. Iron nods, summarizing the situation for the sages. Their mission is to hunt down this mystery adventurer and draft them into the guild's executive staff, as this person will be a crucial warrior in the looming Otherworld War. The man in the 6th chair remains silent as Iron formally closes the meeting. The next day, a young mother and her daughter stroll along a city street. While the mother pauses at a flower shop to haggle over blossoms during a sale, a gorgeous blue butterfly catches the child's attention. The little girl, Saki, slips away and chases the insect onto the busy road. A speeding truck barrels toward her, the driver yelling in shock. The mother turns and screams in terror as the vehicle strikes Saki. As the mother collapses in agony, a miracle occurs. Kuju Haruto materializes instantly, holding Saki safely in his arms. The weeping mother bolts forward to reach her child. Our hero looks down at Saki, thinking of how terrifying the ordeal must have been, and softly reassures her that she is okay. Saki looks into Kuju's eyes and flashes him a bright, grateful smile. Saki thanks our boy for saving her life. Her mother bolts over and scoops the girl up, clutching her tight as pure relief floods her face. Kuju Haruto stands there, wondering how he even managed to pull that off. The moment he saw her falling, he was certain he couldn't reach her fast enough. But somehow, space-time magic made the impossible possible. He cracks a small smile, thinking about how his drink and the girl's balloon were trashed in the process, a cheap price for a human life. Saving her leaves, our hero feeling quietly proud of his growing powers. Between sobs, the mother tells him to wait, wanting to thank him properly. He brushes her off gently, saying there is no need for all that. When she insists that such a heroic act cannot go unnoticed and asks for his name, Kuju hesitates. Feeling uneasy, he tells her he would rather she just forgot any of this happened, as he truly doesn't need more eyes on him. Our protagonist adds that he must head out, and before the woman can stop him, he is already turning away. He mutters to himself that if he doesn't hurry, he will definitely be late. Across the city, a figure leaps over rooftops without breaking pace. It is Haruto, who finally drops down onto the school roof. He peers over the edge and sees the student council president asking around for his whereabouts. Since nobody has a clue where he is, she figures he hasn't arrived at school yet. Later, inside the classroom, chatter about him fills the air, leaving our boy feeling agitated. He doesn't even need to peek into the time stream to know everyone is staring at his back. Rin watches him from her seat, feeling as though he has drifted to a place completely out of her reach. She recalls crossing paths with him at the Shinjuku Metropolitan Government Office's guild branch. Rina had just finished a B-rank dungeon run, and as she checked out, the guild officer asked if a student named Kuju attended her school. When she confirmed his enrollment, the officer explained that Tokamoon from the Weapon Synthesis Lab had created a new breakthrough called the Kuju Theory. Apparently, a clue from a Nakano student led to the discovery. The man laughed it off as a wild story, but Rini silently wonders just how far our hero plans to push himself. Back in the classroom, the professor finishes his lecture and reminds the class about an exchange student joining them next week. During the lunch break, Kuju sits alone on a bench, staring at the letter in his hands. The message congratulates him on reaching Spacetime Mage version 2, but bluntly tells him to sharpen his sword skills above all else. It claims that spacetime magic is merely a backup, and that his real talent lies in the blade. The letter finishes with a cryptic note stating that someday he will understand why these words matter. Our protagonist sighs, wishing his future self would be less vague. Suddenly, someone approaches using a stealthy flash stride to cover the distance in an instant. A man appears, landing on the rooftop wall right beside our boy. Kuju narrows his eyes, studying the stranger as he slowly draws his magic blade. Rising to his feet, our hero demands to know the stranger's identity. The man asks if he is Anon, stating that he needs to borrow his strength. He then looks at Haruto and warns him that the end of the world is creeping up fast. Kuju Haruto keeps replaying thoughts of the stranger in his mind, frustrated that he failed to notice the man getting so close. He knows this isn't just some background extra. There is an undeniable weight to specs that sets him apart. Our boy's mind circles back to the stranger's claim about the world ending, trying to decipher what that could possibly mean. The man in glasses doesn't sugarcoat anything, nodding solemnly to confirm his words. He spells it out clearly. Soon, everything Kuju cares about will crumble into nothing and disappear. Immediately, our protagonist's thoughts jump to his sister, dread swirling as he considers what this bastard is implying. He shakes his head, refusing to swallow such nonsense. Haruto snaps that he doesn't know who this man is, or what shady game he's playing. The stranger essentially popped out of nowhere to drop lines that sound suspiciously like threats. Kuju tells him straight up that he gives off the vibe of someone he already knows, and he is not a fan of that type. He makes it clear he will move on his own terms, not someone else's. There is no world where he will let another person pull his strings. Specs Guy switches tactics, whipping out a video of Ria dancing at her academy. Fury surges through our hero at the sight of his sister on the screen. Kuju seethes, calling the man a bastard for pulling such a stunt. The stranger is taken aback by the raw reaction, sensing something wild and unbreakable about the youth. He can see it now. Kuju has the instincts of a true swordsman. Attempting to de-escalate, the man explains the footage was just for a background check, promising he never laid a hand on her and swearing it on his swordmaster's name. He adds that if our boy wants to settle things right now, he is ready. Kuju shoots him a death glare, warning that a line has been crossed and that the man better not come crying regardless of the outcome. The guy with glasses answers calmly, stating he made his peace with that from the start. Both grip their swords as tension crackles between them. Specs Guy marvels at the lethal energy radiating from our protagonist, while Haruto notices there isn't a single chrono factor swirling around his opponent. The man in glasses confesses that Kuju won't see the time flow like this again since something is seriously off. Without waiting any longer, he makes his move, rushing in at a blinding pace. He understands that our protagonist's killing intent isn't about projecting a vibe, but about erasing his presence completely. Kuju realizes that whatever this skill is, it is what's wiping out the local chrono factors. His mind races, wondering why this nerd is giving him a rundown of his own technique. He questions the man's deal, whether he lives in reality or is just some half-baked villain. However, Specs remains confident, claiming it doesn't matter if he explains his style because he will win anyway. He asserts that by killing his presence, he can control the fight before the enemy even knows what hit them. The nerd strikes again, and despite all his skills, our hero cannot even track the movements as the attack comes. The boy in specs slices him clean in half, only to blink in confusion as Kuju Haruto vanishes instantly. Our protagonist's avatar spell reactivates, allowing him to blitz his opponent from behind without warning. Glasses Dude stands there, utterly baffled, trying to process how the strike failed to connect. In a flash, he leaps away, scrambling to put distance between them, certain his blade had found its mark. The stranger questions if this trick is more than just a cheap afterimage. In response, Kuju fires up his rapid body magic and dives at his opponent with everything he has. It finally clicks for the man in glasses. This must be the legendary power he sought, and it only makes him more intrigued by our boy. Both are now hell-bent on a takedown. Mid-battle, the stranger edges in and casually asks what move is coming next, radiating a calm arrogance as if the fight is merely a game. Our hero wonders if this guy is blind to the flow of time, so he decides to unleash his stop chain magic. Glowing chains suddenly coil and rattle around the area. Kuju darts in, closing the gap in a split second to slam his fist into his opponent with a devastating chrono fist. The punch lands so brutally that the nerd boy drops his sword in a panic and instantly activates steel body magic to brace himself. The impact smashes the stranger backward, sending him skidding far across the ground. Stunned, the nerd reels from the sheer force, knowing that wasn't some half-assed attack. In that moment, he realizes Kuju is an awakened one. Our protagonist stands his ground, breathing hard, while rage and shock burn in his eyes at how little his last attack seemed to accomplish against the man's defenses. Without warning, the Specs guy lowers his stance and offers a sincere apology for dragging Ria into the conflict. He asks for forgiveness for his reckless insults, promising never to cross that line again. Kuju just stares, his mind spinning at the sudden shift in tone. As the stranger retrieves his sword and turns to leave, our protagonist calls him out, demanding how he dares end the fight on his own terms. He reminds the man that the match is unfinished. The nerd nods coolly, agreeing the business is incomplete, and proposes they continue at his own school. This catches our boy off guard. The stranger compliments Kuju's rare abilities but notes that he is still weak and nowhere near the level required. He offers our hero a chance to master sword mysteries at his academy to grow stronger. Kuju recalls the advice from the letter, that his real gift lies with the sword, and that he must live by the blade to become a top-tier space-time mage. Despite this, he stays firm, making it brutally clear he doesn't trust a word the man says. The Specs dude smirks and taunts him, pointing out that since he is obviously the stronger one right now, that should be reason enough to listen. Done with the conversation, the glasses guy gives a final invitation and vanishes. As soon as he is gone, Kuju feels something stuffed in his pocket. Fishing it out, he discovers an exchange student permit linking his current school with Azabu's school. It hits him then. The nerd slipped this into his pocket mid-battle. Realizing the invitation was a setup, our hero knows this bastard is keeping tabs on him every damn second. The nerd stands outside the school building, lost in thought regarding Kuju Haruto. He has confirmed that our boy isn't some average wannabe, he is the real deal. A plan begins to take shape in his mind. Before the Seven Sages can snatch the youth up and discard him like a tool, he will train him first. Once Haruto joins the Sages, the strategist intends to use him to crush them and seize their power, specifically aiming to thwart the goals of Kurogane. Meanwhile, on the playground, Kuju remains glued to the student exchange program letter. It outlines the goal of boosting combat strength among adventurers and stresses that only students from agency schools may apply. It also highlights that student council members receive grade A treatment and exclusive perks. As our protagonist reads, the student council president appears, looking furious after searching for him all day. She yells that he is officially joining the council today, no matter what. Her pushiness irritates him, so he simply tells her she has great timing and that he is in. The response leaves her stunned and needing to confirm she heard him correctly. A week later, at the Azabu branch of the Adventurer Cultivation Agency, the president turns to Kuju with a satisfied grin. She is genuinely impressed that he not only joined her council, but also followed her as an exchange student to the best training institution in Japan. Our hero brushes it off, claiming such a move is obvious for a council member, though he is secretly only there for the grade A perks. She explains that Azabu produces countless S-rank adventurers and requires a magic deviation value over 70 to enter, meaning only monsters are accepted. She warns they must give their all to keep up, and he agrees easily. The two step into the school's main hall together. As they head toward the board chairman's office, Haruto feels the weight of the other students' stares. He decides to ignore the whispers and proceed at his own pace. The president reassures him that she will be by his side the entire time, though our boy silently wonders if she is truly someone he can trust. Soon, they reach the 20th floor and stand before the chairman's office. The president knocks and apologizes for the intrusion. Inside, a man sits waiting, introducing himself as Kiryu Muramasa. Kuju is momentarily surprised to recognize him as the man he fought previously. The chairman rises with a calm smile, explaining that while magic users dominate the era, this school specializes purely in swordsmanship. He clarifies that this exchange program will focus on sword duels rather than magic. Kiryu reveals his plan for Kuju to rise to the very top of the school rankings through these duels. Sakura Kuji quickly protests protests, noting that no such requirement was mentioned in the program details. Our protagonist asks if this means he will get to fight the chairman again, a comment that leaves the president completely puzzled. Kiryu explains that whoever claims first place earns the right to challenge him, Azabu's strongest fighter. Our hero declares that this is exactly what he wants to hear, vowing to take first place and defeat the chairman so he can leave as soon as possible. Sakurakuji looks terrified as the tension rises. Kiryu warns that his only complaint about their last encounter was that it ended prematurely, to which Kuju shoots back that once they settle things, he will have no reason to stay. Despite the intensity, Kiryu respects the drive for the top and issues their student IDs and schedules. The screens light up with full grade A access. Haruto views his stats. Kuju Haruto, Swordsman course, level 98, ranked 14th in Azabu's school and 4395th overall. He realizes the system requires him to challenge higher-ranked students to climb the ladder. Outside the office, Sakurakuji sighs, overwhelmed by the absurdity of the situation. She wonders how she is supposed to aim for first place, but Kuju bluntly tells her there is no need for a new student council president to even try. In his mind, our hero figures the fastest way to rise is to find where the elite students congregate. One location immediately comes to mind, and he decides to head there first. Up on the second floor of the Adventurer Cultivation Agency, the cafeteria buzzes with students. Sakurakuji glances at Kuju Haruto and asks if he skipped breakfast, and he casually admits he hasn't eaten yet. Suddenly, a holographic girl pops up to greet them warmly, guessing they are the new transfer students. She begins explaining the school philosophy that breakfast sets the tone for the day, encouraging them to eat their fill. Kuju wonders if the hologram is scanning their IDs to deliver targeted messages, while the maid urges him to check the grand menu. He raises an eyebrow, asking if the food is free. Sakurakuji comments that schools with this much funding operate on an entirely different level. She decides to inspect every dish, and our boy tells her to quit stalling and just eat, causing both to burst out laughing. As she scans the menu like sacred scripture, she reports that everything is automated and designed for optimal nutrient balance. She declares it her dream cafeteria and insists they implement a similar system back home. Kuju thinks his new president is quite an oddball, but he shifts his focus to his actual reason for being here. His eyes land on a group of punks harassing another student. Their ringleader sneers, claiming the boy is holding a weapon way out of his league. As other students watch, the gang snatches the kid's sword. The student pleads for its return, but the leader scoffs, saying such a fine blade would be wasted on a spineless loser. The boy demands his property again, but the bully tells him to shut up, claiming the student sat in seats belonging to the Raidu faction without permission. Our hero realizes that, as expected, scumbags exist even in a prestigious school like this. He notes that cafeterias are a prime blind spot for teachers, yet he feels lucky to have found trouble so quickly. It will speed up his progress. The bully informs the student he shouldn't even enter the cafeteria unless his rank is in the double digits. When the boy argues that rank shouldn't determine where someone eats, the thug grabs his collar and forces him to agree. The bully calls the kid a god of plagues with zero magic aptitude before shoving him to the floor. Kuju decides this is his cue to act. The bully leans down, claiming the sword is like pearls before a pig, and deciding to sell it at the guild shop to boost their faction's budget. When the trembling boy begs for the weapon because it was a gift from his father, the bully prepares to punch him, snarling that he doesn't care about a sob story. The boy braces for the impact, only to find someone has stopped the fist mid-air. Opening his eyes, the student sees Kuju holding back the bully's hand with a single palm. The bully stares in disbelief and demands to know who he is. Our protagonist introduces himself coolly as an exchange student from Nakano before asking who holds the top rank in the school. When the bully refuses to answer, our boy effortlessly throws him to the ground. He asks again, noting that the fastest way to get information is to ask a hot-headed jerk. The bully's two friends watch in stunned silence, cursing our protagonist. Kuju begins laying down threats to find the top-ranked student when he suddenly senses an invisible blade poised to strike. At that moment, a towering boy enters the cafeteria, glaring at our hero and warning him to stop picking on his crew. He introduces himself as Raidu Nobunaga, leader of the Azabu School's Raidu faction. Raidu Nobunaga stands tall as a third-year student and the third-ranked swordsman at Azabu School. As the current heir to the Kishin sword style and leader of the Raidu faction, he is notorious for constant troublemaking that leaves even the school staff at a loss. Skill-wise, he is nearly on par with the top student, making him a clear contender for a major position after graduation. Right now, Raidu finds himself in an awkward mess with an exchange student, wondering how things spiraled out of control. Kuju Haruto explains that Raidu's crew was picking on a student, and he simply intervened. Raidu's blood boils as he turns to his friends for the truth. Instantly, his crew spews a series of lies, denying everything and pretending they were merely saving seats for their faction. Their leader's rage snaps, and he smashes his fist into all three of them. The bullies are left sprawled on the floor, knocked cold. Raidu looks down at one, noting that his eyes always dart around when he is lying. He hands the sword back and apologizes to the victim for his friend's behavior, offering a sincere apology on behalf of the entire faction. Kuju tells him it isn't necessary, but Raidu insists, placing the sword back on the ground with respect. Our hero cannot help but admire that someone so honest and upfront leads the group. Raidu turns back to Kuju and admits he would rather just shrug this off, but but if he keeps apologizing without action, the faction's reputation will suffer. Because of this, he challenges our boy to a duel. The victim urges Kuju to back out, reminding him that he is facing the third-ranked student in the school. Our protagonist simply replies with a confident, "Hell yes," more than ready for the challenge. Raidu brightens up, pleased that things have become so straightforward, and walks off with a promise to wait at the arena after class. Our hero feels his heart race at the thought of the upcoming fight, but the boy beside him continues to tremble, wondering why anyone would be so reckless. Kuju flashes a smile and asks the boy if he is truly okay living this way. He points out that those jerks will torment him for the rest of high school if he doesn't take a stand. When the boy mutters that things will pass if he just endures it, his sword suddenly starts glowing. Catching the light, our hero realizes this student holds serious potential. Kuju jabs a finger against the boy's chest, asking if his true self is buried deep down inside. He asks what the boy will do when they inevitably steal his sword again. The boy is lost for words as Kuju points out that even though he thinks he can't win, his body still wants to fight back. The boy's voice trembles as he finally admits he doesn't want this to happen anymore. A spark of courage flickers. He wants to stand up to them and protect his sword forever. Proud of this bravery, our hero asks for his name. The boy introduces himself as Ibuki Mitsurugi, and they shake hands firmly. Kuju leans in with a plan, telling Ibuki he must challenge the guy who steals his sword to a duel as well. Our protagonist promises to ensure Ibuki wins, wanting both of them to taste victory. As Ibuki nods with burning determination, a message pops up from Sakurakuji asking where he is. Our boy replies that he is still busy eating, feeling mildly irritated by her interruption. Sakurakuji catches wind of the duel and stands stunned outside the arena's prep room, trying to figure out why this exchange student is picking a sword fight on his very first day. She corners Kuju Haruto, who just shrugs it off, saying a bunch of stuff happened. When she snaps, asking if he seriously thinks she will just let this slide, our boy reminds her that the board chairman himself ordered them to aim for the top. He figured it would be faster to lock in a match with the third-ranked guy immediately. She can't believe it is actually that simple. Our protagonist explains his plan. He intends to take first place, fight that board chairman bastard, and then head home as soon as he is finished. Ibuki wonders if Haruto is serious about aiming for that, but knowing him, he feels like our boy just might pull it off. The boy adds that if Kuju beats the chairman, it will be an unprecedented achievement in Azabu School's history, and he might even walk away with the legendary skill cube. That makes Kuju pause, curious about a skill cube he has never heard of until now. It turns out that Kiryu, the school's founder, unraveled the deepest secrets of swordsmanship and locked them inside that cube. Our protagonist remembers what future Haruto said about mastering the sword's mysteries here. Ibuki explains it is a unique sword art called the dimensional slash, a technique that supposedly slices straight through dimensions. Our hero wants to double-check the name, realizing that if it truly exists, it could be exactly what he needs to save old Haruto. The thought amps up his determination. He cannot afford to lose. Fired up, Kuju feels his fighting spirit surge, but first he wants Ibuki to kick things off. Ibuki agrees without hesitation. He is determined to give it his all, especially since the bully mocked him after he issued the challenge. Ibuki asks what sneaky plan our hero cooked up to guarantee a win. Kuju tells him to follow his lead exactly, and victory is in the bag. He then asks to inspect Ibuki's sword. Later, inside the packed Azabu branch arena, hundreds of students roar as the match begins. Down in the arena, Ibuki squares off against the bully, tension crackling between them. The bully hurls insults, calling him a dumbass and promising to beat him to a pulp. Up in the stands, Sakurakuji quietly asks Kuju if Ibuki will be alright. Our protagonist reassures her that he has it under control. He recalls the plan. The moment the duel kicks off, Ibuki must draw his sword and slash in a single unbroken motion without pausing to think. Kuju explained that the opponent would likely rush him, expecting an easy win over a nobody. If Ibuki freezes in fear, he loses, so they must flip that expectation. Kuju made it clear that Ibuki cannot miss. He told him to keep his eyes open and execute the drawing slash cleanly. He asked the boy to trust him, and Ibuki responded with complete confidence. Back in the arena, Ibuki faces the bully, brimming with the belief that he can pull this off. Raidu watches from afar as both fighters stand ready. The referee raises his hand and signals for the duel to begin. The two fighters stand locked in a silent stare-down, poised for their duel. First up is Ibuki Mitsurugi, a second year sitting far down the ladder at rank 3424. Facing him is the instigator, Kinju Kentaro, a swordsman holding a solid rank of 153. Kinju continues his taunts, claiming they can keep their little friendship going after he wins, but Ibuki refuses to waste his breath. His mind is fixed on his objective. Suddenly, Ibuki yells back, declaring that once he wins, Kinju must never bother him again. When Kinju mocks his guts in response, Kuju Haruto can't help but grin, genuinely glad for his new friend. The duel begins as the referee signals the start. Watching Kinju's initial movement, our boy tries to determine if the challenger possesses any real dual blade skill. The answer comes quickly. The opponent is exactly as incompetent as suspected. Ibuki feels the match playing out just as our hero predicted. The instant the signal drops, Kinju charges without hesitation. Recalling the advice to never look away, Ibuki holds steady and draws his blade in one smooth motion. Kinju's eyes widen with shock and terror. The strike is so swift he doesn't even register the impact before both of his swords snap clean in half. The bully's faction members stand frozen, stunned by the display. As the referee's voice rings out announcing Ibuki as the victor, the boy stares in disbelief, barely processing the result. Meanwhile, our protagonist and Sakurakuji beam at the outcome. Of course, our hero saw this coming. Ibuki's weapon isn't just a standard blade, it is a magic sword. When Sakurakuji asks if it is a mage's weapon, Kuju explains that his Eye of Time revealed an insanely rare enchantment. Unlike Haruto himself, Ibuki does possess magical energy, but the school tests read as 0 because the sword siphons his power non-stop. The weapon has the unique ability to unleash its stored energy in one explosive burst. Having carried the blade for 3 years without slaying a single monster, Ibuki had a massive reserve of magic just waiting to be triggered. Kuju shrugs, noting that a win is a win regardless of how it happens. Unable to contain his excitement, Ibuki shouts to our boy over and over that he actually won. He blurts out a question about what happened, still reeling from the shock, but our protagonist tells him it was the strength he had inside all along. He promises to explain the magic sword details when they have more time. Now the moment arrives for our hero. Kuju and Raidu, the faction leader, stand face to face in the arena. Raidu warns that he is not holding back, knowing the reputation of his entire group is on the line. Brimming with confidence, our hero accepts the challenge with a wide grin. Both grip their swords tightly, ready to clash. The referee raises a hand, signaling the match to begin. Both fighters hold their ground, waiting for the other to make a move. The crowd murmurs in confusion as neither athlete attacks, while Kiryu leans in, his eyes fixed on the spectacle. Kuju Haruto narrows his gaze, trying to understand why his opponent remains so relaxed despite the glaring openings in his stance. Regardless of what is going through Raidu's head, our protagonist refuses to hold back. Out of nowhere, Kuju surges forward at full throttle, but an odd pressure suddenly hangs over him. He recognizes the sensation instantly. It is just like his encounter with the stranger in glasses. His Eye of Time is active, yet there isn't a trace of Chronos magic nearby. Our boy begins to wonder if all the elite duelists at Azabu can produce this suffocating aura. If they can, predicting their movements with time flow is impossible. He decides to stay still and wait. Raidu takes a slow step forward, stopping at mid-distance and offhandedly remarking that the spot will do. Without warning, he activates a Kishin-style move, Aesthetics of Nature, and lunges. Invisible, deadly blades whip in from every angle. Relying purely on his reflexes, our hero dashes out to dodge the assault. Anticipating the escape route, Raidu leaps into the air and brings down a brutal strike. Kuju meets him steel to steel, deflecting the heavy blow with his own weapon. Surprised by the sheer weight of the attack, our protagonist decides to retaliate with a Chrono Fist. Raidu doesn't flinch, countering with steel body magic. They meet at the arena's center, fists flying as the clash of magic lights up the air. After leaping back to create space, Raidu smirks and offers a half compliment, noting that Haruto handled the Kishin-style strikes well. Our hero is preoccupied, wondering how the man took a Chrono Fist head-on without sustaining damage. Raidu explains that his sword style isn't just about slashing, it involves molding the body to be as unbreakable as the blade itself. Realizing time tricks won't work, Kuju decides to stop leaning on the Eye of Time and trust his instincts. Raidu notices the shift in focus as our protagonist lets go of his distractions, so he drops his own. Kuju activates Quick Body while Raidu responds with stealthy steps. They charge again, unleashing a barrage of strikes as they test and read each other with every hit. Kuju's speed and power begin to overwhelm his opponent, catching Raidu off guard. Raidu throws a massive counterattack, launching our hero backward with sheer force. When the dust settles, both stand apart, breathing heavily. Kuju's shoulders tense as he acknowledges that the man is no joke. However, no matter how strong Raidu is, our protagonist is determined not to lose this one. Staying in the fight is turning into a grind. Kuju Haruto launches another all-out attack, putting everything into the strike, but Raidu meets the blow with his blade effortlessly. The impact fails to even phase him. Without missing a beat, Raidu counters, swinging with such power that our boy has to throw himself out of harm's way to avoid being wrecked. Kuju recovers quickly, answering with another aggressive push. Again, Raidu blocks the move without breaking a sweat. Up in the stands, the students lose their minds. Some cannot even keep up with the exchange, as it reaches a level none of them have witnessed before. While Raidu's skill is impressive, the exchange student is the true topic of conversation. Nobody has a clue who our protagonist really is. A girl in the crowd looks rattled, wondering aloud how things have reached this point, and the validity of the exchange program seems to require a full re-evaluation. Down below, Ibuki shouts for Haruto. Nearby, a gang of rowdy supporters yells for their fighter, hyping Raidu up and pushing him to crush our boy into the dirt. However, our hero is not about to fold. Losing is not an option. His mind is locked on victory because he has someone to save, making a win non-negotiable. As the fight drags on, Raidu takes a second to observe his opponent. There is something heavy about the way Kuju moves, as if he is carrying more than just his own weight. Oddly enough, Raidu respects that. Still, he has his own baggage, and backing down is not an option for him either. Our protagonist notices a shift as the energy coming from Raidu ramps up. The pressure grows intense, almost suffocating. Raidu launches himself into the air and descends with another crushing attack. He is not fighting for show. He is dragging his own burdens into the ring as well. Suddenly, a memory from Raidu's childhood bubbles up. He was 8 years old, backpack slung over his shoulders, heading out for school while his mother called out behind him. When he arrived in class, the mood flipped instantly. His desk was covered in cruel insults and ugly scribbles, making it clear someone had it out for him. The other kids laughed and whispered behind his back. He stared at the mess, wondering who could hate him that much. He sat in silence, surrounded by rumors painting him as a lost cause. Some said he deserved it, labeling him a useless, poor troublemaker who was not worth the space he occupied. Alone in the classroom, he read every insult repeatedly, taking them in like poison. The walk home offered no relief. Outside his apartment, he overheard his mother in a tense conversation. A man pressed her hard about an unpaid loan, and she apologized repeatedly in her distress. The man pointed out she had become the guarantor for a husband who had long since vanished. She begged for more time, promising to figure something out, but it was not enough. The man left angry, leaving Raidu standing there with clenched fists as fury bubbled in his chest. That night, something in him snapped. He made a silent vow that he was done being weak. No more watching his mother get steamrolled by life. He would get strong enough to flip the script. Years passed, and that promise turned into action. Raidu fought his way through underground matches and built a reputation. Opponent after opponent fell at his feet. After one victory, his manager handed him his winnings in a cash envelope, but he barely looked at it. His mind was already racing ahead. This was not enough. He had to get much stronger. If he could not protect the one person who mattered, then the fighting was pointless. As he walked out of the venue that night, the school chairman stepped from the shadows. Kiryu did not waste time, telling Raidu straight up that if he wanted real power, he needed to level up beyond the underground circuit. Kiryu had seen the fight and was impressed, but he warned the young fighter that raw talent would only rot in back alley rings. Raidu bristled, assuming this was about money because he did not trust the man's vibe. Kiryu stayed calm, explaining it was about family and providing a way out. That only angered Raidu more, but the chairman then handed him an envelope. Inside was a formal offer: admission to a swordsmanship school called Azabu Academy under the Kishin style. The invitation came with a full scholarship, free of fees or strings. Kiryu explained that the Kishin style was tailor-made for someone who already lived and breathed combat. All he had to do was master it. Raidu did not buy it, slapping the hand away and calling it shady nonsense. None of it felt real, sounding like another scam dressed in pretty paper. But deep down, a small part of him stirred. He knew the truth. If this was the key to getting stronger, he would do whatever it took. Raidu keeps turning the school's offer over in his head, wondering if joining might actually help him level up. 2 years fly by, and for someone who has been chasing power since childhood, picking up the Kishin style feels almost second nature. Eventually, it clicks why Kiryu has been pushing so hard for him to enroll. It is because at this school, everything, status, power, and respect, is carved out by the blade. The place is crawling with the worst problem kids, and Kiryu clearly expects him to whip them into shape. Whether he realized it or not, Raidu has already ended up calling the shots over the other delinquents. That is how the Raidu faction takes off. The beginnings are messy, but somehow it works. As always, he maintains a sketchy vibe, yet for reasons unknown, Kiryu lets him in on a side hustle. That tip clears his debts, and he is truly grateful for the help. From the outside, his crew looks like a pile of rejects, but Raidu sees them as reflections of himself, versions that might have turned out even worse if life had tilted the wrong way. They have simply learned to survive the only way they know how. That history is why there is zero chance he loses this fight. Right now in the arena, Raidu comes at Kuju Haruto like a freight train. Our boy is caught off guard as his opponent pulls out a Kishin-style hidden move. Mid-attack, Raidu unleashes a technique called Scenic Beauty. Both fighters go at it with hands and blades, throwing serious heat. Our protagonist can feel it. The pressure from that sword just went through the roof. This is no longer the same level of combat. If this pace keeps up, our protagonist will be crushed by sheer force alone. Raidu is built differently. Fighting him is like swinging at a wall that punches back, yet he uses no tricks. He is direct and honest, which is rare. Kuju knows dragging the match out will not help because time is not on his side. He shifts gears, leaning into his raw power and the sword that has carried him this far. He calls on the Blade of Chaos, asking it to show its true potential. Power surges between them, violent and massive. Suddenly, something sparks in the back of his mind. Those magic words. The letters told him his real gift lives in his sword. If he wants to become a space-time mage worth anything, he has to walk the path of the sword first. Meanwhile, Raidu yells at Haruto, calling him a bastard for laughing during their fight. He has no clue what is so funny. A massive explosion follows, and the blast flings both fighters in opposite directions. As the dust settles, Raidu starts chuckling too, perhaps finally understanding the joy of the struggle. Once more, they charge for a final clash. When their blades collide, the impact detonates into another explosive shockwave, and the whole arena vanishes behind a wall of smoke. Students whisper and guess, trying to make out what just happened. Even the chairman leans forward, though his poker face does not slip. Once the smoke clears, the crowd freezes. Both are still standing, but Raidu is yelling. His blade is completely shattered, with bits and pieces of steel littering the ground. He then realizes something even crazier. Our hero managed to slice through his body, which was practically made of metal. Our protagonist is still processing the fight. The pressure coming off that opponent's sword was insane. perhaps even outclassing the board chairman's blade. The referee steps up and calls the match. Kuju Haruto is the winner. Raidu hits the ground hard, his energy spent. Our boy stands alone, victorious. Everyone is stunned, staring at the fallen fighter who has not moved an inch. A crowd gathers around Raidu while Kiryu watches in silence. The chairman thinks to himself that Kuju just beat Nobunaga, the third-ranked powerhouse, and did it with almost nothing but technique and grit. Just as the old man suspected, the kid has awakened. Our hero thinks to himself that he is the right one for the job. The enemies hiding out in Azabu all this time might finally be put down by his hand. This was a sword fight through and through, and he realizes with a start that it was actually fun. Kuju Haruto stands in front of the school gates, flanked by his two friends. Across from them, Raidu and his entire crew face off, but this time, there are no threats. They bow, heads low, and offer a collective apology. Our boy keeps it cool, saying it is fine and there is no need to drag out regrets. Raidu exhales as if a boulder has been lifted from his chest. Haruto letting them off the hook is the best thing that could have happened. The former bully actually looks lighter. Then, as if it is the most natural thing in the world, Raidu starts rambling. Weirdly enough, getting totally wrecked in a fight leaves him feeling clearer than ever. He realizes he actually likes the feeling. Kuju, not even hiding his confusion, wonders how someone can flip their entire attitude this fast. He muses that perhaps that steel body training really rewires a person, given Raidu has energy to burn. Our protagonist glances around, catching the crowd of students still watching, and figures now is the time to leave. He tells Raidu straight up that they are done here, and there is no need for any more dramatic acts. Kuju is not interested in drawing attention, but Raidu just smirks, telling him to quit pretending to be humble if that is really how he feels. Then Raidu drops the small talk to address the real point. One by one, the crew lines up in front of Haruto. As if rehearsed, they speak in sync, declaring their defeat and vowing to have his back from now on. Anytime, anywhere, he just has to say the word. That throws our boy off, but in a good way. He accepts, saying he will call them if he ever needs backup, and they seal the pact with a handshake. Raidu tells him flat out that he can count on them, no questions asked. The next morning, national news is buzzing. According to the Metro Police, crime numbers are still dropping across the board. However, there is a flip side. Incidents caused by dungeon-born monster species are climbing every year. Both the police and JSOF are now calling for tighter coordination with the Adventurers Guild. Ria watches this on her phone during a typical morning newsfeed scroll. The update continues, noting that Japan's GDP has been soaring, holding steady at over 10% annual growth ever since dungeons popped up worldwide 3 decades ago. Meanwhile, our hero is kneeling in front of a picture of their parents, silently offering his prayers. He turns and tells Ria he is heading out to school. The anchor keeps talking, explaining that Japan's rise comes down to one twist. Only people born in Japan seem to have an aptitude for dungeon exploration. The government has not wasted the opportunity, flowing cash straight into local companies and schools to fast-track the development of anti-monster gear and training magic-capable students. Ria hands our protagonist his lunch, and he gives her a grateful nod. The report wraps up by stating all of this has pushed Japan into a full-blown economic renaissance. Kuju Haruto steps out the door. Waving him off, Ria asks if he will be at Azabu again today. He reminds her he is still doing the student exchange program. She comments on how sleek the campus looks, admiring the top-tier architecture and mentioning she would love to visit someday. Our boy, knowing better, tells her the inside of the school is actually quite old school. That surprises her, as she figured it would be futuristic and cutting edge. Still, she likes the idea of a normal school life because it sounds fun. Kuju agrees that it is. He then asks if today is her first day of middle school. She lights up, confirming it. She still feels stuck in elementary school mode, but is ready to catch up. Our hero tells her he will be cheering for her and that they both have to give it their all. He makes a silent promise to himself that he will never let Ria feel alone or sad again. Later, on the way to school, Kuju walks among the morning crowd of students. He notices a guy yanking a girl by the wrist. She struggles, clearly trying to pull away, while the guy snaps at her, asking if she realizes how much money he has already dumped on her. Other students nearby whisper. The girl is Malulu, a famous online TikTok queen with 3 million followers about to drop her first single. Whatever is happening, it does not look like a friendly chat. Kuju figures it is not his business. Suddenly, the girl yells at the guy, telling him to back off and never try such a sneak attack again. She calls him a pathetic loser for thinking he could own her, then she bolts. She does not stop running until she stumbles into something dangerous. A freshly unearthed dungeon site. It looks like a normal wall, except it is covered in yellow tape screaming to keep out. Milulu freezes. Something moves. Something big. A massive creature starts crawling out with an eerily human face and a nightmare for a body. She stands rooted in place, unable to scream or move. The monster is an Imperial Centipede, listed under S rank for subjugation and B class for annihilation. Its recommended raid level is 1200. The creature bursts out of the dungeon and halts just inches from Milulu. She freezes, tears streaking down her cheeks as panic hits so hard her legs give out, and she crumples to the pavement. A guy nearby yells, demanding to know how something like that ended up outside a dungeon, while another man mutters that it might be a migrating type. Milulu snaps at them that the classification does not matter. They need to run immediately. The bystanders bolt, but the girl stays rooted, trembling on the ground and unable to move a single step. The men around her realize with mounting panic that she is not going to make it out alive. The monster goes berserk, tearing through buildings like they are made of paper. Then, without warning, its head is sliced clean off. The severed skull crashes down with a sickening thud, and everyone freezes in confusion. No one knows what just happened. All they can see is the head lying in a heap. As the smoke clears, Kuju Haruto appears, calm as ever and carrying Milulu in his arms. She looks up at him, her heart pounding for a completely different reason now as she finds herself falling for him. Our boy gently sets her down and tells her to clear out while she still can. He really did not want to get dragged into another chaotic mess, but he knows leaving all these people to die would keep him up at night. Kuju plants his feet in front of the beast. The creature now stands fully revealed with multiple heads, all locked onto him and full of hate. Our protagonist raises an eyebrow, noticing the thing just grew its head back. It looks like the bastard has a regeneration skill. Just then, backup finally arrives. Security forces flood the area, checking if everyone is still breathing. They flash their IDs, introducing themselves as the Adventurers Guild from the Minato district. One of them turns to our boy, eyeing him warily and demanding the student step away, unless he has a death wish. Their captain steps up to provide the rundown. The beast is a B-class destruction monster with an S-tier subjugation rank. The recommended total raid level is over 1,000. One of the soldiers grimly reports that the average adventurer present is barely level 80, meaning there is no way they can take this thing head-on. Someone suggests calling the Seven Sages, but the captain snaps that the signal will not reach them in time. They have no choice. They either stop the monster here, or civilians die. Our hero listens, silent but focused. When the monster lunges, the soldiers rush to fight back, but their gear does not even scratch the hide. Kuju decides he has had enough and activates Stop Chain, level 2. The captain stares in shock as a soldier asks in disbelief if the student just saved them. Haruto's thoughts are sharp and fast. He realizes now is not the time to worry about drawing attention because people are in danger. He kicks space-time magic into high gear and drops Quick Body level 3. The monster spews a wave of poison his way, but our protagonist dodges, identifying the corrosive breath meant to melt anything it touches. He needs to keep the damage to the surroundings as low as possible. Our boy leaps straight at the creature, grabbing hold of its thick neck. He casts Avatar Replay, causing his body to flash as he rewinds to where he was 0.3 seconds ago. In that exact moment, he swings. One of the creature's heads drops like dead weight. The soldiers just stare, jaws slack, as the beast's head thuds to the ground. Milulu is completely awestruck, unable to take her eyes off him. The monster's huge body collapses. Our protagonist casts Material Rewind with his own unique spin on the spell. Even if the creature manages to regrow the head, the neck will snap back to the moment it was sliced off. Regeneration is no longer an option. Kuju Haruto is satisfied. This spell locks the beast down for good. Now our hero is all set to take out the last 7 heads. Kuju Haruto charges back in, gearing up for another strike on the monster. Before he can land a hit, one of its massive heads swings around and sends our boy flying like a rag doll. He crashes to the ground hard, but before anyone can even gasp, 4 of the creature's heads hit the dirt right after him. Our protagonist does not waste a second. He hits them with the same spell, locking down the stumps so the heads cannot regrow. Now, he sets his sights on the last 3 heads, ready to slice them off next. The captain stands there stunned. Whatever the guild expected from this student, it was not this level of power. Someone mutters that he probably came out of the cultivation agency, judging by the way he fights. Right then, the remaining 3 heads lunge at Kuju. They are beyond furious, spewing fire everywhere, but he does not back down. Our boy fights like it is personal, moving as if he has done this 100 times. His thoughts flash back to yesterday's duel with Nobunaga. He remembers the steel body technique, a skill that jacks up durability. The smug board chairman uses it too, which honestly makes it annoying in Haruto's eyes. Our protagonist knows his own weak points. His defense is lacking, and his stamina tanks quickly. Up until now, he has been dodging hits instead of tanking them, which means he burns out and ends up gasping for air. This time he switches things up. He decides to test a new practical twist on Chronopost. He gathers the Chronos energy inside him, but instead of blasting it offensively, he redirects it inward. As he charges again, the technique clicks, working exactly as he pictured. He grins to himself and names it on the spot, Chronoguard. He locks eyes with the monster and declares that it is his turn now. In the blink of an eye, our hero blitzes toward the beast, all his magic avatars moving in perfect sync. Our protagonist unleashes his newest technique, Chaos Meteor Magic. Kuju Haruto and every single copy of him hit the monster simultaneously, raining down a barrage like something out of a nightmare. The light from the attack is so blinding that no one can see the impact. Then, in one clean second, all the creatures' heads hit the ground, severed. Our boy stands right next to them as a system window flashes. The Imperial Centipede is down. Kuju the Adventurer has leveled up by 4, and his Swordsman rank jumps by 12. He scores 5,334,010 credits, and a magic-type skill cube drops into his inventory. The captain remains frozen and absolutely speechless. Meanwhile, Milulu is practically vibrating with joy, beaming and cheering for our protagonist as if he just won the entire war. A large crowd forms around the dead monster's body, murmuring and gawking at the carnage. Nearby, the guards shift their focus to Kuju Haruto. They all agree that he saved their lives, and they owe him a massive debt. One woman in uniform suggests he should think about signing up with their guild, but the captain goes even further, straight up offering our protagonist his own position as leader. Our boy turns them down with a quick apology. Leading a guild is not on his agenda. The soldiers practically beg him not to brush them off, insisting he return to their outpost as if his cooperation was inevitable the moment he began showing off. Kuju Haruto sighs internally, feeling stuck in the mess and deciding to roll with it for the moment. He pauses as if mulling it over, but in reality the person standing before them is just a magic clone. The actual Haruto dipped a while ago. From a distance, he watches the illusion of himself fake chatting with the group, who are all hanging on his every word. In magical terms, the trick involves material rewind. He anchored a snapshot of the area's visuals, locking what they see in place. It feels a bit sneaky, and he feels slightly bad about the deception, but he is in a hurry. Right now, our protagonist is tearing through the streets on foot, racing toward school. He figures if he maintains this pace, he might still make it. Suddenly, someone yells his name. He turns to see Milulu, very much not where she is supposed to be. She waves him down, asking him to stop and hear her out. Kuju Haruto blinks, recognizing her as the girl from earlier. What really throws him off is that she saw through his space-time trick, which is not supposed to happen. She steps up, annoyed, noting that he helped her and then ghosted without a word. Now she is pissed and wants an explanation. Our boy mentally notes that normally the roles are flipped. She should be thanking him, not chewing him out. Milulu stares at him, waiting for a response. In that moment, it hits him that he is catching feelings. He realizes he needs to give her a pep talk. He tells her that even if she is trying to dodge some weirdo, she needs to be more aware of her surroundings. They live in an era where monsters show up in broad daylight, and charging into a sealed-off zone was not her best move. She squints at him, trying to figure out his angle, and our boy is not entirely sure himself. Then she smirks, assuming he only helped because he knew who she was. She proudly declares that she is ranked #1 on the TikTokers You Should Be Watching list, with over 5 million followers. She mentions her upcoming singing debut and a potential lead role in a Netflix drama. That is the high school icon Milulu, just in case he missed it. Our hero is thoroughly unimpressed and pretty sure she just violated an NDA with that casting news. Still, she offers him a deal. If he appears in one of her videos, she will give him a shout-out to boost his followers. Our protagonist shoots her down immediately. He has zero time for this. She fumes as he walks away, but Kuju Haruto simply breaks into a run. She chases him for a bit before eventually slowing to a stop. He is gone, just poof, out of sight. She looks around, confused and muttering about where he vanished to. She is low-key offended that he isn't into her, but as she scrolls through monster pictures on her phone, she admits she has totally fallen for him. She is convinced this guy is going to shake up the whole world, trusting her Akashic vision, which is never wrong. At the monster's kill site, the head of security, Kurogane, stands among his troops while a sizable crowd gathers around them. He addresses the civilians, explaining that the dungeon entrance has been magic sealed, so there is no need to panic. He thanks everyone for their patience during the chaos. Kurogane notes that he personally witnessed an S-rank suppression class beast acting like a wandering type. One of the soldiers mentions a strange gate appearing near Tokyo Tower, remarking on how much bizarre activity has occurred lately. Suddenly, someone calls out to Kurogane. He turns and instantly recognizes the person. His first thought is to ask how things went with the anonymous guy from earlier. Milulu does not offer details immediately. Instead, she gives her verdict straight up. She admits she really likes the guy, so much so that she finds it hard not to overhype him. That is when it clicks for Kurogane. He finally understands why Kiryu, the legendary sword mage of the Seven Sages, is so fixated on the kid. Milulu casually mentions that sending in a smooth-talking flirt as a decoy to make direct contact was worth the trouble. Kurogane presses her for certainty, and she confirms her Akashic vision gave her the green light. Then, the Seven Sage known as Tellurium reveals a secret. Her day job is pop idol Milu, while her Seven Sage duties are more of a part-time hustle. She smirks, noting that now that Kuju Haruto has caught her eye, the poor dude stands no chance of escaping. Back in the classroom, our protagonist walks in right on time. He drops into his seat and notices 3 girls huddled in conversation by the doorway. Ibuki enters the room and calls out to him. Our boy perks up, happy to see him, and thanks Ibuki for the school tour. Ibuki shrugs it off, explaining that his family always pays back favors immediately. Suddenly, a girl calls Kuju's name from behind. She hands him a letter and asks him to read it before leaving without another word. Ibuki immediately snatches the chance to peek at the letter. He muses that even with Azabu's high-tech learning environment, old-school love letters are still going strong. He figures this is fallout from the recent duel. Ibuki points out that the girl who delivered the note was last year's Miss Azabu. When asked for his response, our boy says he will politely turn her down later. as he has more important things to handle. Ibuki is stunned that our protagonist would brush off royalty so easily. After wrapping up the tour, Ibuki leads Haruto to the final stop, a club room for the Modern Dungeon Research Society. Kuju Haruto is surprised to learn Ibuki is the president and sole member. Looking at a shelf of dungeon-themed toys, our hero asks if Ibuki actually finds this fun. Ibuki doesn't hesitate. His obsession only grows the more he learns. He mentions a rumor about a hidden room in the F-rank Imperial Garden dungeon in Shinjuku, which was cleared long ago. Our protagonist already knows about that, so he shifts gears to ask who holds the top rank at the school. Ibuki explains that Azabu's top 2 adventurers are currently exploring an S-rank dungeon in Shirokanadai. Kuju Haruto tells Ibuki they are going there immediately. He wants to challenge and take them down on the spot. Ibuki tells him to chill, explaining that the dungeon is restricted to licensed elite adventurers because the entrance sits on private land owned by a wealthy individual. Our hero asks about the price of entry, and Ibuki tells him flatly, 50 million yen. Kuju Haruto's jaw drops when he hears the astronomical cost of the entrance fee. Ibuki casually explains that the dungeon has been yielding high-grade ores, meaning even a single successful trip could earn back the entire fee. Our boy's mind immediately begins to race. He wants that top rank so he can flatten the board chairman, claim the dimensional/skill cube, and rescue old Haruto as quickly as possible. Ibuki clarifies that anyone entering the Shirokanadai S-rank dungeon must register as a party. Between the individual fees and the logistics, the total cost will hit at least 100 million yen. Kuju asks if the current first and second place students actually paid that much, but Ibuki reveals they got in for free by being part of the landowner's inner circle. Our protagonist quickly pieces it together. He sees exactly how the game is played. Checking his magic screen, he sees his balance is currently sitting at 48,791,145 yen. Ibuki suggests they simply camp out and wait for the top 2 students to exit, but Kuju fires back that he is going to settle the entrance fee right now so they can hit the dungeon immediately. Ibuki is baffled, questioning if our protagonist truly understands that they need 100 million yen. Our boy remains cool, telling his friend to just stick with him because it won't take long. They arrive at a towering building in Tokyo, where the name Mikado Technologies glints from the facade. Ibuki is lost, but Kuju Haruto tells him to stop overthinking and follow him. He finally reveals their destination. They are going to see the company's president. The story rewinds 2 weeks to Kuju at home during dinner. A news broadcast announces that the idol Milulu is debuting as a singer with her single, Come Adventuring with Miru. Plushie, hanging out nearby, admits he has a complicated history with her. Our boy thinks to himself that this plush toy really is a future dumbass, but he finds himself wanting a clearer picture of the future Plushie came from. Plushie asks if our hero is truly ready for the full download. He explains that if he revealed everything, Kuju's growth as a space-time mage and his ultimate fate, our protagonist could become something borderline mythical, akin to the Akashic Records. Kuju Haruto ultimately backs off, deciding he would rather figure things out on his own terms. Plushie is impressed but insists there are critical things he must pass on, just as he did with Rina. Suddenly, a breaking news banner flashes regarding Mikado Technologies. The company, a pioneer in adventuring gear for 30 years, is filing for civil rehabilitation. They spent a fortune developing a top-secret recovery item called the Omega Potion, but the project flopped because they are missing a crucial, hypothetical elemental particle. Plushie informs Kuju that this is exactly the kind of important thing he needs to know. He pulls up the magic screen, and though our protagonist is suspicious of Plushie messing with his interface, the toy explains that the missing element is the Chronos factor. It is a theoretical particle that can rewind the body, mind, and damage to its original state, serving as the core component of the Omega Potion. Plushie has uploaded the necessary data to point the company in the right direction. He is confident that Mikado Technologies is the real deal and will become Kuju Haruto's strongest ally in the future. For now, though, our protagonist is the one who owes the company a favor. Plushie wonders aloud exactly how our hero plans on returning it. Inside the high-rise headquarters of Mikado Technologies, Kuju Haruto and Ibuki sit across from the company's president in a sleek, glass-walled office. Mikado Musuke greets our boy with a wry smile and quickly addresses the 500 million yen sitting in Haruto's account as his share of the Omega Potion project. The staggering sum leaves Ibuki frozen in disbelief, but our protagonist remains unfazed. He explains that he simply wants the company to hold on to the funds for now, a request that catches the CEO off guard. Despite his confusion, Mikado Musuke acknowledges that our boy is the company's savior. Haruto delivered the critical data on the Chronos factor, the missing piece required to complete the Omega Potion. Thanks to this contribution, Mikado Technologies narrowly avoided bankruptcy and is now flooded with new orders. The potion has not just revived the business, it has set it ablaze with success. With a flourish, the CEO places an elegant vial on the table, the very first completed Omega Potion, as a symbol of their comeback. Without further delay, Mikado transfers the 500 million yen to our boy's account and encourages a future visit, promising the full support of the company. As they leave, Ibuki mutters about how unpredictable our hero has become, while Kuju Haruto simply offers a quiet smile. The two head directly to the Shirokanadai S-rank dungeon in Tokyo's Minato ward. Standing before the entrance, our protagonist initiates a transaction for an astonishing 150 million yen. Once the funds clear, the manager confirms receipt with a nod. Ibuki hesitates, voicing his doubt over a debt he can never repay, but our hero brushes it off. For him, Ibuki's presence is enough. This trip is on him as a gesture of friendship. Haruto gestures to Sakurakuji, who stands nearby looking slightly out of place. She admits she was only brought along for healing support and doesn't quite grasp the situation. Our boy quickly warns Ibuki not to mention the entry fee to her, fearing she would faint from the shock. As the group prepares to move, a girl suddenly bursts onto the scene and throws her arms around Kuju Haruto. All three turn in shock as she clings to him, loudly proclaiming she has finally found him and will not let him get away. The student council leader looks on with suspicion, wondering if our boy is involved in something inappropriate during the exchange. Ibuki recognizes the girl immediately. It is Malulu. She remains latched onto our hero's arm, claiming she tracked him down using her investigative skills as a popular idol and dungeon influencer. Kuju Haruto is unimpressed, prompting Malulu to explain that her fans tipped her off about his location. When she asks if he plans to enter, she threatens to start a livestream and accuse him of harassment if he doesn't let her tag along. Weary of her antics, our protagonist asks how she bypassed the entry fee. Malulu smugly replies that the staff wouldn't dare turn her away. Realizing she would have followed them regardless, our boy asks if she can heal. Offended, Malulu reminds him she is a cleric-type mage. Kuju Haruto sighs and lets her join, but he sets one firm rule. If her life is in danger, she must fall back without hesitation. He promises to cover her retreat, but she must run. Our hero applies the same rule to Sakurakuji and Ibuki, who both nod in agreement. Kuju Haruto feels a measure of relief. Having made them promise, he knows he cannot bear the thought of losing someone again. Ibuki looks at him with newfound respect, seeing a leader who has been through hell and refuses to relive it. Finally, our protagonist steps up to the immense gate and declares it is time. The doors to the S-rank dungeon slowly swing open before them. In Shirokanadai, right at the heart of Tokyo, our group stands at the entrance of an S-rank dungeon. Kuju Haruto keeps his eyes locked ahead, giving his friends a sharp heads up that something massive is approaching. A giant tail whips into view, snaking just past the opening. Our boy quickly turns to Ibuki, demanding a fast rundown on their opposition. Ibuki doesn't waste time identifying the threats. The first is a flying sea serpent, an A-rank subjugation target with lethal, fast-acting venom. Right behind it is a Giga Giant, another A-rank cyclops known for relentless destruction. To round out the nightmare, an evil mantis joins the fray, a giant insect that generates vacuum slashes by whipping its blade-like arms like a blender. Sakurakuji stares at the unfolding chaos, noting that every single creature is an A-rank threat. She asks for the plan, while Ibuki mutters that it might be smarter to turn back. He knew an S-rank raid would be rough, but facing monsters this powerful right at the gate is next-level trouble. Kuju Haruto calmly draws his sword, his eyes steady. He tells the others to hang back and stay sharp while he handles this himself. Without another word, our protagonist launches toward the enemy. As he flies forward, he speaks softly to the creature sealed inside his weapon, telling it the wait is over. He summons the sacred beast, Cerberus. His friends watch in awe as our boy mounts the three-headed hound, racing toward the enemy squad. Cerberus locks onto a three-faced monster and unleashes a triple blast of fire, incinerating the target instantly. The two blitz through the monsters, wiping them out with terrifying speed. When they reach the Cyclops, our hero switches gears and activates his space-time magic, Avatar Replay. Cerberus lunges, bites the beast's back, and slams it into the ground like a rag doll. Without losing momentum, Kuju Haruto leaps into the air and dives into the fray, hacking through the remaining enemies like a machine. He then calls on his Eyes of Time, filling the battlefield with multiple versions of himself. The clones move in perfect sync, and our protagonist begins firing chrono rays, blasting through the enemy line. Sakurakuji is completely awestruck by this display. However, just as she catches her breath, a monster closes in on her. Before it can strike, our boy appears out of nowhere, cuts it clean in half, and lands beside her effortlessly. A moment later, Kuju Haruto stands beside Cerberus, running a hand down its fur in appreciation for a job well done. His three friends remain stunned by the sheer efficiency of the slaughter. Our protagonist turns to them and announces they are moving deeper into the dungeon. He looks to Ibuki and mentions a split in the path up ahead. When Ibuki points out they have no idea which way the top-ranked teams went, Kuju Haruto assures him it isn't an issue. It is time to test his newest trick, pairing his space-time magic with retrovision. Kuju Haruto's mind drifts back to the centipede he defeated on his way to school, the way it died, and how everything ended with him grabbing a skill cube in the middle of the chaos. At that moment, a screen flashes in front of him, displaying a message that he has acquired a magic skill cube as a drop item. Now, our boy channels his space-time magic and activates retrovision. Just ahead, a glowing magic gate pulses with energy. Suddenly, the watch on his wrist kicks into gear, and images of flying dragons stream from the gate like a broken projector reel. The student council president stares, wide-eyed, muttering that this cannot be real, and wondering if these are visions from the past. Impressed by the clarity, Kuju Haruto responds that it is incredible, like watching old footage rewind in real time. He explains that the Chronos factor governs the flow of time. With the right interference, it can be reversed to pull old events into the present. That is the entire premise behind retrovision. The watch ticks at hyperspeed. Milulu, clearly entertained, calls it classic behavior from her favorite research subject. Meanwhile, our protagonist remains locked in, his eyes scanning the playback. Time flies by on the display, jumping 8 hours and 21 minutes. Finally, 2 students appear wearing Azabu uniforms. Kuju Haruto spots them immediately and knows he has finally found them. The counter hits 12 hours. Our hero points out that at this point in the playback, it would have been around 8 p.m., meaning those 2 entered the dungeon early in the morning. He wonders why they haven't returned yet, as that seems far too long for a standard dive. However, since the dungeon staff by the gate haven't raised any alarms, he wonders if he is overthinking it. Returning to the present, all 4 stand together. Kuju Haruto explains that he has tracked the route taken by the top 2 students, noting that both went down the left-hand corridor. Ibuki, still reeling from the magic just displayed, is blown away by the realization of what our boy can do. Sakura Kuji silently reassures herself that her assessment of our protagonist was correct. Milulu casually mentions that the left path is supposed to lead to more loot and cash. She asks if the point of dungeon crawling is to rack up riches, but our protagonist shuts that down immediately. He tells her that if she is only in it for the money, she is welcome to go her own way. He warns her again that if things go wrong, she must fall back or leave the dungeon entirely. Milulu, slightly annoyed, fires back that he missed the joke, though she admits he is a badass before dashing down the left corridor. Elsewhere in the hall, Student Council President and Ibuki hold their own against dungeon creatures. Kuju Haruto glances toward Milulu, wondering if she can handle the incoming threats. 2 massive beasts charge at her, but our boy launches himself forward and takes both out before they can reach her. Another large, fast creature barrels toward Ibuki. Our protagonist calls out, telling Ibuki not to freeze and that it is time to show what he can do. Ibuki, his nerves shaking, braces himself. As the monster lunges with its sword raised, Ibuki swings back and slices the creature clean in half. He stares at the body in shock, having taken one down by himself. Our hero walks over, grinning, and tells Ibuki this is what he is truly capable of. While Ibuki is still rattled, the praise sinks in. He straightens up with more confidence, crediting Haruto for the success. Kuju Haruto reflects on how Ibuki's magic sword has likely been feeding on these high-tier monsters, soaking up their power. Ibuki is buzzing with adrenaline as our protagonist eyes the next doorway. Judging by the lack of tracks, it appears the 2 students went inside with no footprints leading back out. All 4 stand before the massive set of doors, take a collective breath, and decide to go through. Ibuki stares at it, visibly unsure, while Kuju Haruto steps forward. He notes that this should be the boss room. While he hadn't planned on venturing this deep into the Shiro Kanadai dungeon today, they are committed now. As soon as they push the gate open, the group freezes. Lying inside are 2 unconscious figures, a girl and a guy. Our boy instantly recognizes them as the top 2 ranked adventurers, Shikigami and Rusaki. Before they can react, something drops from the ceiling and lands before them. It is a pitch-black creature with glowing eyes that looks uncannily like a human child. Sakura Kuji asks if it is supposed to be a child, but Ibuki corrects her immediately. This is the dungeon boss. Milulu is skeptical, noting that according to the Adventurers Guild records, the boss of this dungeon should have been a high-tier dragon. She has never seen anything like this, even among the 7 sages. The creature opens its mouth, revealing rows of sharp, oversized teeth. This is the Ruler of Darkness, an S-rank hidden boss with a recommended raid level of 2500. Sakura Kuji urges our protagonist to fall back, realizing they are in over their heads, but the gate slams shut behind them, sealing their fate. Milulu nervously asks for the plan. Our hero responds without hesitation. His goal is the top rank, and if this creature defeated the current number 1, then it is the obstacle he must overcome. He launches himself at the monster like lightning. The creature spits a massive fireball, but Kuju Haruto activates his quick body magic, rushing in to slice the creature's head in 2. The head regenerates instantly, followed by another blast of flame. Our boy fires off his stop chain magic to pin the beast down, but the monster snaps the chains effortlessly and hurls him back. Recovering in midair, our boy unleashes his chrono rays. They tear through the monster's flesh, but it pulls itself back together as if nothing happened. Kuju Haruto is stunned. None of his magic is dealing lasting damage. Then, the monster lunges and swallows him whole. His friends go pale, but inside the beast, our protagonist activates Avatar Replay. A moment later, he blasts out of the monster's body, alive and airborne. Even the creature seems thrown off by his survival. Without missing a beat, Haruto powers up a light element enchantment and launches Chaos Meteor. The attack slams into the monster, slicing it in half. His friends shout in celebration, but their joy is short-lived. The monster melts into a liquid state and re-emerges in its true form. Our protagonist stares in frustration as the creature begins to swell, its body inflating and energy pulsing until it towers above them, stronger than before. Kuju Haruto wonders if the beast absorbed his attacks to level up. Suddenly, a familiar voice rings in his head. Plushie, asking how he plans to win and suggesting a different route. Kuju Haruto ignores the distraction. He has a nightmare to face. He locks eyes with the monster while his friends wait for his next move. Malulu looks down at the watch. Time is almost gone. The monster's size continues to ramp up, growing more massive with every passing second. It lunges, attempting to snatch Kuju Haruto, who immediately takes off at a sprint. The beast throws heavy wild punches, but our boy manages to weave through the assault. Without wasting a moment, he activates Stop Chain Level 2. Chains burst forth, wrapping around the monster and locking it down completely. Our protagonist spots his opening and makes his move. He jumps in with his sword raised and slashes deep into the beast's hide. The hit lands and blood spills, but the victory is fleeting. Seconds later, the monster shrugs off the wound and stands tall as if nothing happened. Kuju Haruto is confused. Not only is the creature ignoring his attacks, but it is feeding off them, growing larger with every blow he lands. This makes the entity the absolute worst match for a close combat fighter. Suddenly, the monster begins spinning and shifts its form into a massive sword. It flies at him too fast to block, the blade slamming into Haruto and sending him crashing backward. He hits a wall hard but immediately yells for his team to stay back, warning them that the enemy is far too dangerous. Ibuki watches from a distance with clenched fists, hating his own perceived uselessness, while Student Council President provides quiet support by casting buff spells. Our hero notices and feels grateful, even though the situation is becoming overwhelming. Protecting the others while unable to land a decisive hit is making the battle an uphill struggle. Out of nowhere, the influencer girl walks up and stands right next to him. Kuju Haruto glances at her, wondering what she is doing in the line of fire. She tells him to focus entirely on his attack while she acts as his eyes. When he tells her to stay with the others, she insists she is tougher than she looks. Our boy is stunned as a strange aura of light begins to pulse around her, making time move oddly in her vicinity. She reminds Kuju Haruto that she has been watching the whole fight, and that her unique skill allows her to break down anything she observes. Our protagonist wonders if she possesses Akashic vision. She confirms that she can see the monster's entire structure, past, future, strengths, and weaknesses. She even reveals her own version of a guide, a toy she calls her little lamb, which provides her with the necessary data. The lamb explains that there is a hidden core inside the beast controlling its transformation. While magic scans cannot detect it, the Chronos Factor can. When she asks what that means, the lamb reveals that Haruto is a Chronos Factor user, and that the particle is the very source of his power. Kuju Haruto is stunned that she knows his secret. She simply smiles, noting that she has been watching him all along, and asks if he trusts her. She is truly putting herself on the line for him. After a brief moment, our protagonist says he does trust her, which makes her genuinely happy. However, the monster is not finished. It charges back in its sword form, ready to strike again. The monster's blade slices through the air, barreling toward them at breakneck speed. Kuju Haruto clocks the incoming strike and immediately knows this one is bad news. The angle and force make it impossible to block head-on. Instead of waiting to be skewered, our boy flips the script and launches himself into the air, aiming to intercept the massive sword before it can reach him. Meanwhile, Malulu shouts a heads up that the monster's core is buried deep inside. She warns that tracing its magical current is impossible for any regular mage, but our protagonist is not a run-of-the-mill spellcaster. With his space-time magic and knack for detecting the Chronos Factor, this fight is exactly his arena. Kuju Haruto slams his sword into the beast, but mid-swing, he realizes he is a fraction too early. The monster counters hard, its blade slicing into him and hurling him to the ground like a ragdoll. Ibuki and Malulu freeze as panic flashes across their faces, thinking our hero has been knocked out of the fight. However, as he lies flat on the ground, Kuju Haruto is grinning. Everything is going according to plan. The social media girl is pumped, recognizing this as peak Kuju energy. From his position on his back, he uses the paws to scan the monster's structure, his magic drilling into its very essence. Finally, he finds the core. He marks the energy source and begins crunching numbers, intent on disrupting the mana flow feeding the beast. Our boy lines up a path toward the core, completely unfazed by the monster's weak counterattacks. He is not backing down now. With precision, he kicks off the material rewind spell and pours every ounce of magic he has straight into the core of the sword. The monster convulses, shifts, and reverts to its true form. That is when our protagonist drops the stop chain spell. This time, the monster is locked down and fully under his control. He considers landing a final hit but quickly dismisses the idea, knowing any physical strike would just be absorbed. Suddenly, the voice of Plushie rings in his head, asking if he has figured out the kill move yet. Our protagonist smirks, knowing that since Plushie is effectively himself, of course he has the answer. He calls out to Ibuki and asks for his sword. Ibuki doesn't hesitate and tosses it over. Our hero catches the weapon and calmly tells the monster he isn't here to slash, he is here to drain. He plants Ibuki's sword against the monster's body and initiates the absorption process. The blade siphons the creature's energy, steady and relentless, until the beast begins to fade and vanishes completely. The magical interface flashes a confirmation. Ruler of Darkness, defeated. Kuju Haruto exhales in satisfaction. Milulu looks at him as if witnessing a legend, while Ibuki simply grins and calls it classic Kuju. As they run toward him to regroup, our boy stops them and points to the two unconscious students. He notes they are still breathing, but healing magic will not be enough to save them from death's door. Instead, he pulls out the Omega Potion. He administers the tonic to each of the collapsed students, and within seconds, both blink awake and slowly push themselves upright. The moment the boy and girl come to, their first question is whether the dungeon boss was defeated. As they process the situation, both realize Kuju Haruto saved their lives. He tells them he is simply glad they are in one piece. In response, the two say they owe him a massive debt and are ready to repay the favor however he wishes. Our boy nods and casually asks if they would be okay giving up their first place ranking at Azabu School. The boy gives a quick shrug, saying the title is no big deal. The pink-haired girl turns to the protagonist with raised eyebrows, asking if he is truly satisfied with just that. Kuju Haruto confirms it is more than enough for him. The pink-haired girl admits that the reason those two are even ranked at the top is due to family ties rather than overwhelming power. The boy recalls that our boy and his crew are the exchange students who beat Raidu, the former third-place holder, in a duel. To him, it is obvious that our protagonist deserves the #1 spot. He pulls up a magic screen and officially hands over the title. The display flashes, Kuju Haruto, from number 3 to #1 at Azabu School. Kuju Haruto beams and thanks him sincerely. With that goal achieved, our boy suggests they head out, and the squad eagerly starts jogging toward the exit. Soon, they stand outside the Shiro Kanedai S-rank dungeon in the middle of Tokyo. Our hero's thoughts shift to the only thing left on his checklist, taking down the board chairman. As they walk, they notice two men waiting up the road. One is identified as Kurogana, head of the Adventurers Guild Ministry's Minato division, and the second is Yamashita, the JSDF's chief of staff. These are not just random officials, they represent the highest tier of authority. Kuju Haruto tells them straight up that he is in a rush. Kurogane asks why our protagonist is still listed as C rank when his performance is easily A rank tier. Our boy shrugs, saying the paperwork doesn't matter, and questioning why they are pulling an ambush at midnight. The chief quickly apologizes and turns to Milulu, asking for her assessment of the fight. She confirms that Kuju Haruto is the real deal. Hearing this, the officials make their pitch. Kurogane wants our hero to become the top advisor for the Adventurers Guild Ministry, while Yamashita offers him a role as a strategic planner in the JSDF's Monster Response Division. The group is thrown by the magnitude of these offers. The chief explains that humanity is in crisis, and that at the current rate of monster growth, human extinction is inevitable. He wants our boy to help keep Japan from falling apart. Ibuki cuts in, clearly skeptical of the dual recruitment. Milulu nudges her to be quiet, watching our protagonist with wide eyes and wondering what he will do. Kuju Haruto calmly declines both offers. He says he is not interested in working under them, even though he cares about peace. He explains that there is someone he needs to protect, and that he wants to build a world where monsters and dungeons no longer exist. He intends to make that happen on his own terms, and if it helps everyone else along the way, that is a bonus. With that, our protagonist turns and walks off, leaving the officials to watch him in silence. Ibuki remains stunned that he turned down such powerful roles without blinking. Meanwhile, the social media girl is swooning, convinced that Kuju Haruto is the coolest person on the planet. She decides then and there that she is going to marry him. Beside her, the little lamb deadpans that there is no going back now. The following morning, Kuju Haruto enters the board chairman's office on the 20th floor of the Adventurer Cultivation Agency's Azabu branch. He casually greets the man behind the desk, who narrows his eyes in suspicion. Our boy cuts to the chase. He is officially ranked first and wants to pick up where they left off. The chairman does not argue. He rises silently, sword already in hand, and tells Kuju to follow him. He leads our protagonist to the rooftop, moving with a calm confidence that makes Haruto wonder what he is being dragged into now. Once they reach the open air, the chairman asks if Mitsurugi Ibuki ever mentioned the school's legendary skill cube, the one tied to the dimensional slash. It is a mythical ability accessible only to an awakened master of the sword. Kuju Haruto nods. He knows that to get that cube, he has to beat the man standing before him. Kiryu observes our protagonist, noting his ironclad spirit and the fact that he has leveled up significantly since their last encounter at Nakano School. It isn't just progress, it is a transformation. The chairman decides it is time to reveal the truth. He explains that his grandfather founded Azabu School and possessed prophetic abilities. Before the old man died, he left a prophecy regarding a world-ending catastrophe that could only be stopped if Kuju tracked down the Awakened One and crushed the threats to humanity. Our hero is confused by the rambling, so the chairman clarifies. Their duel at Nakano was a setup to test if Kuju Haruto was the real deal. By bringing him to Azabu and pushing him through the ranks, the chairman watched as our boy defeated Raidu and saved the top rankers in the Shiro Kanedai S-rank dungeon, all in just 3 days. There is no doubt left that Kuju Haruto is the one. The chairman admits he is not worthy of the skill cube himself and, in a surprising gesture, bows to our protagonist. However, our boy shuts him down. He doesn't want the mission. He is tired of everyone pushing a grand destiny onto him. The chairman realizes Kurogane from the guild must have already made a similar pitch. Kuju Haruto tells him flatly that he is not a pawn. He made his own choices and climbed the rankings specifically to earn that skill cube for one reason: to save someone important to him. He refuses to be commanded or leashed. The chairman finally sees what is driving our boy and asks who this person is that requires the dimensional slash to be protected. Haruto's expression hardens. He snaps that it is none of the chairman's business, and he owes no explanations. This conversation is draining him, and he has had enough. In that moment, something in the chairman shifts. His voice becomes sharp and angry as he declares that he will act on his own terms. Kuju Haruto's eyes narrow as he realizes the peaceful talk is over. It looks like the man is actually going to fight him. The chairman appears ready to strike, and in that same instant, Kuju Haruto draws his blade. They lock eyes with weapons in hand as tension hums between them. Before the conflict erupts, however, the chairman yields. Our boy blinks, caught off guard. The man calmly explains he is finished clinging to their inconclusive feud and lacks the resolve to continue the duel. He further clarifies that he will demand nothing more from his opponent. Kuju remains silent, processing the sudden shift. Without further build-up, the chairman offers the skill cube. He raises his hand, and with a shimmer of magic, the glowing object materializes. Still suspicious, our protagonist asks if he is truly certain about this. The man nods, admitting his obsession went too far. Swearing upon his position, he promises no further stunts or betrayals. Kuju Haruto accepts this with a nod, considering the chapter closed. Despite the resolution, the atmosphere feels unsettling. The hostility and battle aura have vanished entirely. Our hero focuses his mind on mastering dimensional slash, seeing no reason to waste time on a man who has surrendered. Maintaining his guard, he turns and offers a quiet goodbye over his shoulder. The chairman watches him depart, reflecting on why Kuju is different and how he managed to awaken. He concludes that ordinary tactics would never have worked and that his own surrender was his smartest move. Later, in the solitude of his office, the chairman speaks softly to a framed photo of his grandfather. He remains convinced that the boy will return one day. In Shinjuku, inside the Metropolitan Government Office's Adventurers Guild branch, our protagonist enters the weapon synthesis lab. He interrupts a scientist who looks up in surprise, noting that the student field trip is not scheduled until the afternoon. Recognition soon clicks, and the researcher grins, thanking Kuju for his previous assistance and expressing a desire to talk. Our hero waves the conversation aside, stating he has come with a request. He presents the skill cube and asks to fuse it with his sword. The scientist examines the item before placing the blade into the machine. After a short wait, the device pings to signal the modification is complete. Kuju Haruto frowns, noticing the weapon looks unchanged. As the scientist monitors the space-time data, his eyes widen. Interference from the Chaos Sword's extra slot is disrupting the Chronos factor. Irritated, he turns to ask if Kuju understands the situation, only to find the room empty. He calls out, annoyed that the boy bailed before their chat, wondering if he can even hear him. Outside, our boy is already mentally distant. He calculates that his next task is locating a dimensional rift. With the eyes of time, scouring the city is feasible. He wonders briefly if the older version of himself is still breathing, hoping to avoid attending his own funeral. Passing a cake shop, a thought flickers through his mind. Kuju enters and places an order. The shopkeeper eventually returns with a festive strawberry cake, apologizing for the delay. He notes the strangeness of the request, as it is a Christmas edition cake being sold in July. Our protagonist shrugs and accepts the box. Standing on the street, Kuju Haruto thinks of his sister, Ria. He remembers her grinning and wishing him a Merry Christmas despite the summer heat. She had reminded him of his promise to hold a late celebration after his ballet recital. Now, cake in hand, our hero feels he is finally about to fulfill that long overdue vow. He nears the Tokyo department store, gift already chosen, hoping Ria will love it. He does not notice the silent, invisible presence trailing a few steps behind him. Kuju Haruto walks into the apartment and heads straight for the kitchen to set down the cake. Silence meets him, and he realizes Ria did not answer the door. After a quick check of the rooms, he assumes his sister is still at school, recalling her promise to give her all to her studies today. Without warning, a figure materializes in front of him. Our boy draws his sword instantly, his gaze sharpening as he demands to know who is there. The figure shifts, transforming into a monster that demands his blade. Kuju is stunned by the creature's goal, especially since the weapon was only recently fused with space-time magic. In a blink, the entity vanishes and reappears behind him, repeating its demand. Our protagonist whirls around and slashes the creature clean in half, yet it pulls itself back together effortlessly. Rattled by the encounter, Kuju Haruto struggles to identify the threat. The entire atmosphere feels wrong. The monster suddenly closes the distance, and they lock eyes. Our hero lunges again, but the target vanishes, reappearing behind him in an instant. He attacks with speed, but this time the monster catches the blade with its bare hand. Our protagonist is floored. The creature held the strike as if it were a mere stick. He throws his weight into a struggle to pull it free, but the thing's strength is overwhelming. It rips the sword from his grip. Furious, Kuju yells for the return of his weapon. The monster retreats with the blade, and he gives chase, only to find the hallway empty. Then, inexplicably, he spots the sword lying by the door. He retrieves it, remaining deeply confused by the sequence of events. Ria's voice suddenly cuts through the air. Having just returned home, she finds him standing outside and asks what he is doing. Kuju quickly hides the sword and mutters that it is nothing. She sighs and calls him weird before grabbing his hand to drag him inside. She reminds him that today is the day they finally fulfill their promise. Back in the apartment, the two begin setting up the tree together for their long-awaited Christmas party. Night falls as the siblings host their private Christmas celebration. Ria wears a full Santa Claus outfit, presiding over a table stacked with homemade dishes that catch Kuju Haruto completely off guard. He is visibly impressed, grinning at the realization that she managed such a spread entirely on her own. Beaming with joy, Ria raises her glass to meet his. They clink them together, speaking in perfect sync to wish each other a Merry Christmas. As dinner begins, Ria dives in with infectious enthusiasm. Between bites, she gushes about the flavors, and our boy quickly agrees that the food is incredible. He offers a sincere compliment, noting that nothing beats her cooking. Overjoyed, she leaps up to hug him, boldly suggesting that every day should feel like Christmas. Our protagonist laughs at the notion, telling her she is pushing her luck while maintaining a warm smile. Once the plates are cleared, Kuju Haruto shifts the conversation toward her education. Munching on a slice of cake, Ria explains that her day was fantastic and that both the students and teachers were exceptionally kind. Hearing that she had a blast makes our hero genuinely happy. Remembering the gift, he quickly retrieves it and hands it over. Ria's face lights up with excitement as she reaches for the package. He tells her she can open it whenever she likes, and she immediately tears into the wrapping to reveal a gorgeous pink bag designed for ballet class. Our boy tells her that now she can truly give her training everything she has. Her eyes water as she offers a quiet, heartfelt thanks. Watching her, Kuju Haruto thinks to himself that this moment feels like a dream, a peaceful reality he once thought impossible. His phone buzzes, drawing Ria's attention. Our protagonist glances at the screen and tells his sister that someone wants to say hello. It is Rin on a video call, her smiling face appearing on the display. She tells Ria how thrilled she is to see her again, while Ria marvels at how grown-up Rini has become. Rina laughs, admitting she wishes she could join them, but explains she has dungeon preparations in the morning. Ria waves off the apology, simply happy that she called. The conversation turns to teasing when Ria complains that our hero won't share any details about life at Rini's school. Rini laughs and decides to spill everything, revealing that Kuju Haruto is currently the campus celebrity. She informs a stunned Ria that a scumbag showed up at the academy, and our boy defeated him in a magic duel without blinking. Rina continues the praise, mentioning the gossip about Kuju taking down a savage migrating beast solo and providing a hint that revolutionized a theory at the Adventurers Guild lab. She adds that the girls at school are counting the days until he returns from his exchange program. Ria turns to her brother, declaring him incredible and voicing how proud she is to be his sister. She pokes fun at his new reputation while he groans, telling her to knock it off. Eventually, the excitement fades, and a tired Ria prepares for bed. The siblings brush their teeth side by side before she finally climbs into her covers, clutching her new ballet bag like a teddy bear. While she drifts off, our protagonist is miles away, standing atop Tokyo Tower in the Minato ward. He stares at the moon, deep in thought with a letter clutched tightly in his hand. He mutters that it is time to get this done. His mind lingers on his future self, silently hoping the man is still alive and managed to endure. At the top of Tokyo Tower, our boy stands in silence as the wind cuts past him. Tears slip down his cheeks while his thoughts circle back to old Haruto. Up here, he has one primary task: sync with the Chronos factor running through the entire Tokyo metro. He knows a single slip in focus could cause the entire system to crash. Though the magic is advanced, he reminds himself that he is Kuju Haruto, a space-time mage. He can handle this. Our protagonist resolves to scan the temporal flow across the city, searching for dimensional seams hiding just out of sight. He believes they must be waiting there, yet as he scans every corner of the skyline, he finds nothing. Then, a flicker appears, a ripple above Rainbow Bridge in Odaiba. He locks onto the signal and takes off running. When Kuju reaches the spot, the rift has already vanished. He frowns, certain it belongs right there. A moment later, it blinks into view again for a split second. He raises his sword, knowing there is no time left. Our hero slashes the air where the seam shimmers, flooding his blade with Chronos factor. Magic ignites and energy surges through the steel until sparks burst off the edge. As the weapon vibrates with power, he raises it high and calls for old Haruto. This is no ordinary strike, it is a dimensional slash. As he executes the move, memories crash into his mind like a wave. He remembers old Haruto's warning that the rift would never reopen once closed. Kuju recalls the man's goodbyes to him and to Ria, and how he had once begged the man to stop. He remembers Ria wondering if the stranger could have been her brother, and how old Haruto had smiled, telling her she had a second chance at life. Our boy is near his breaking point. He recalls the mention of a second letter, a version 2 set aside for this exact moment. From here on, the weight of the world rests on Kuju Haruto's shoulders. He refuses to let this timeline end in ruin like the one before it. The man believes in him, and Kuju vows to be the one who stops the enemy. The sky finally splits, and our protagonist carves the opening wider. He sees old Haruto's face clearly through the tear. Knowing the rift will not hold, he pours every ounce of Chronos factor he possesses into the void. Old Haruto pushes forward, barely hanging on, and gasps that he is using the last of his strength. Kuju urges him to reach out and transfer the power. Both men raise their hands, throwing everything into that final link. A blinding arc of light erupts between them as they strain against the fabric of reality. Suddenly, old Haruto falls through, dropping out of the rift as if yanked down by gravity. Our hero stares, stunned as a heavy breath escapes him. Old Haruto is alive and present in this timeline. For the first time, it feels as though the world might actually hold together. Old Haruto slumps on the ground before Kuju Haruto, gasping for air and struggling to comprehend how he survived a dimension designed to be a one-way trap. Our boy calmly confirms the success of the extraction, but the older man looks up with a half-defeated expression. He insists that while Kuju pulled him from the fire, it was ultimately a waste. He is finished either way. Kuju Haruto frowns, confused by such immediate resignation. With quiet resolve, the visitor explains that he no longer belongs in this reality. His existence is a glitch in the timeline, and sustaining his physical body was never a viable option. The laws of the world and the twisted logic governing time simply will not allow it. Our protagonist watches, still trying to grasp the situation, until the man raises a hand. It is fading, piece by piece, like static dissolving from a screen. The older man admits he is out of time and cannot hold on any longer. Watching this disintegration, our hero remarks that it is a shame. However, the fading man remains steady, telling him there is nothing shameful about his end. This makes Kuju pause. He gives his counterpart a knowing look and wonders aloud if the man truly thought he hadn't prepared for this exact scenario. Without missing a beat, our protagonist reaches into his bag and pulls out a plushie. Having anticipated a failure of the physical form, he prepared a backup plan. Old Haruto stares at the object, surprised, yet acknowledging that this is exactly what he should have expected from himself. He channels his soul directly into the plushie, and the toy jolts to life. Now animated, the creature tells Kuju Haruto that this is his true current form. Our boy blinks, asking if he is genuinely satisfied with the arrangement. The plushie nods, its voice soft as it notes the care evident in every stitch. He can feel their sister's love sewn into the fabric and promises that if Kuju ever needs him, he will be around. Content with the result, Kuju smiles and welcomes him home. They head back to the apartment together. As soon as they cross the threshold, the plushie calls out to Ria, announcing his return. Ria is stunned but thrilled, realizing she essentially has another big brother. The plushie confirms this with pride, boasting that he is cooler, sharper, and far more stylish than before. Ria beams over the moon with joy. Watching her easy acceptance, our protagonist lets out a quiet breath of relief. Ria realizes she has yet to offer a proper thanks. She turns to the plushie and addresses him as her brother with genuine warmth. At that moment, the toy suddenly flops forward like a lifeless doll. Kuju Haruto raises an eyebrow, questioning the nature of the trade-off, yet it hardly matters. Their family finally feels whole. Our hero decides it is time to sit down, unpack these events, and determine their next move. The plushie agrees, eager to build something amazing. Meanwhile, in a distant realm, a stranger stands scanning his surroundings. He mutters that the fabric of reality has thinned, and the Chronos factor is completely distorted. Detecting a tear in spacetime, he tracks the interference directly to Earth, pin 34563. He dismisses it as a primitive world of savages, yet notes that if they are opening portals, it serves as an open invitation. Having locked onto the coordinates, he prepares to move. One more world has just been added to his collection. Inside their home, Ria stares at the plush toy and wonders aloud if Harry-san is secretly her brother from the future. Without missing a beat, the plushie confirms she has nailed it. He immediately launches into a self-promotion, claiming he is leagues ahead of Kuju Haruto in every category. Meanwhile, our boy silently wonders what kind of distorted timeline led to his future self becoming this smug. Future Haruto tells Ria she should start calling him her smarter big brother from now on. She accepts this easily, repeating the title as if it were official. Kuju tries to intervene, telling Ria she doesn't need to take the toy's claims seriously, but she is genuinely thrilled to have two older brothers. She reminds them both that it is breakfast time and asks if they prefer a Japanese or Western-style meal. The plushie requests something light, like toast, while our protagonist votes for scrambled eggs and extra crispy bacon. The two versions of Haruto lock eyes across the room, radiating pure animosity. Kuju jabs first, sarcastically reminding the plushie that he once swore he didn't eat. The elder Haruto shrugs it off, stating that such details are ancient history, and he is focused on the future. They continue their sibling rivalry until Ria returns to tell her dramatic duo that breakfast will be ready in a minute. Seated at the table mid-meal, the elder brother asks if Kuju Haruto has been following the instructions in the second letter. Our boy gives a half-committed answer, though his counterpart presses for updates on his sword training. Kuju responds that he reached rank 1 at Azabu Academy and believes swordsmanship is his greatest strength. Flipping the conversation, our hero asks if mastering space-time magic is necessary, noting he is ready to commit to that as well. This focus makes the future Haruto pause. He admits that Kuju is finally starting to show some character in his expressions. As a reward, he offers a tip. In the near future, our protagonist will unlock a magic device called retrovision. When the elder brother mentions the skill Mint, Kuju reveals he has already mastered it. Stunned, the plushie wonders if this version of himself is leveling up faster than he ever did, or if there is a secret growth route in this world that even he cannot foresee. A deafening explosion suddenly rocks a nearby city. Fire and smoke rise into the sky, clearly visible from the window. The television flickers on with an urgent alert. A stampede is underway. Monsters have begun spilling out of a dungeon in Tokyo, with multiple breaks occurring simultaneously across the city. The news anchor urges everyone in the red zones to evacuate immediately, emphasizing that this is a full-scale invasion. The elder brother stares at the screen, stunned. This disaster is occurring far earlier than it did in the future he remembers. Kuju Haruto asks if this event was always part of the timeline, but before he can receive an answer, Ria points at the screen. Rini appears on the broadcast, fighting alone to hold back the tide of monsters. Elsewhere, atop Tokyo Tower, a stranger stands calmly above the destruction. He looks out over the chaos and calls for the adventurers to show themselves. He announces his intent to demonstrate the power gap between their worlds, and he intends to prove it with a live demonstration. Every major news station broadcasts the chaos unfolding across Tokyo. Monsters tear through the streets and buildings blaze while civilians bolt for their lives. Inside the Adventurer Guild's main office in Marunouchi, the 7 sages remain glued to the broadcast. An emergency session has been called for the S-rank adventurers to address the stampede. The team leader reports that casualties have already crossed 1,000 and continue to climb. Under orders from the ministry, they are coordinating a joint defense with the self-defense forces, but the odds are stacked against them. The barrier is cracking. Failure is inevitable. Karyu, the first sage, notes that 7 dungeons have been identified as sources for the surge, a number that continues to rise. The second sage adds grimly that the attack has arrived ahead of schedule, while the third sage observes that this aligns perfectly with Lord Kagemitsu's prophecy. The leader displays a map, laying out a battle plan with military precision. Karyu is assigned to the east, Platinum to the west, Oz to the south, and the 4th sage to the north. Tantal, the 5th sage, remains to guard the headquarters. As the meeting breaks, Muramasa, the 6th sage, suggests that someone is pulling the strings behind the scenes. Though the leader initially brushes it off, Muramasa insists the prophecy confirms a hidden hand. He receives reluctant permission to investigate the source, rather than just fighting on the front lines. Teller, the 7th sage, is ordered to stay at the office to compile field updates and intel. As they depart, the leader warns the chairman to stay alive. In the city, the situation has become a bloodbath. Rina is in the thick of the fighting, wounded but refusing to quit. Overwhelmed by sheer numbers, she flinches as a hulking monster lunges at her. Before the blow can land, magical chains shoot out and lock the beast in place. Kuju Haruto appears behind the creature and slices it in half. Relief washes over Rin as our boy checks on her. She finds herself thinking that he always appears exactly when he is needed. Kuju Haruto helps her up and asks for a quick status report. Rina explains that while the student council mages from Nakano Academy have joined the fray, they are being buried by the monster horde. Our protagonist understands immediately. He orders her to pull the defense line back and evacuate everyone, stating he will handle the incoming wave. The plushie, floating nearby, casually announces he will finish things quickly. Even as he braces for battle, Kuju Haruto worries about Ria, despite her having Cerberus for protection. The plushie offers to demonstrate the ideal space-time spell for this crisis, just this once. Our hero glares at him, annoyed that such a spell wasn't taught earlier. The plushie smirks, claiming that handing over everything at once would be boring. Our protagonist snaps that his personality is terrible before leaping back into the chaos. A monster charges a group of civilians, but Kuju Haruto lands in its path and activates a new technique, Hexahedron Prison. Magical cubes materialize, trapping every monster within. Even the most massive beasts fail to break the walls. Our boy systematically wipes out the remaining creatures while nearby security guards watch in disbelief. They thank him, admitting they have never seen magic of this caliber, and ask for his identity. Kuju Haruto tells them his name is unimportant. He instructs them to inform the guild and the military that the monsters can be pushed back. He hands them a pouch of potions laced with space-time magic, developed with Mikado's technology. He tells them to focus on civilian evacuation and reinforcements. The guards recognize the items as incredibly rare and expensive, shocked that he is giving them away. Our boy bluntly tells them that in exchange, they must ensure a specific female guard holds her position. He takes off into the sky, leaving the inspired guard team to hustle into action. High above the battlefield, perched atop Tokyo Tower, the monster leader watches the progress. He mutters that he detects someone interfering with the Chronos factor. Amused, he decides to find this interloper, hoping they might finally make things interesting. The guards successfully secure the oversized monster within a containment cube, buzzing with magic. Their captain confirms the creature is boxed tight and orders the remaining magic potions to be rerouted as emergency aid to other zones. Before they move out, she reminds the squad that they owe the kid a massive debt. They prepare to report to the guildmaster with a proposal to recruit him as an executive, a plan her team supports without hesitation. High above on the roof of a skyscraper, our protagonist watches the guard team wave their thanks. The elder brother remarks from the sidelines that it looks like Kuju Haruto may have found himself a capable tactician. Our boy is unimpressed and tells the plushie to cut the chatter. Suddenly, a message pings his device. Kuju frowns as he reads the text from director Kiryu. The message confirms that the current rampage is being orchestrated and identifies the source as being perched atop the skytree. Kiryu wants Kuju to intervene and shut it down. Our hero pieces the situation together, realizing this interference is why the chaos erupted ahead of schedule. The plushie confirms the theory. The enemy from the future has decided to invade this era early. Over at Tokyo Tower, Kiryu pockets his phone and faces the monster leader. Standing on the rooftop against the skyline, the monster asks if he is finally ready. The chairman calmly apologizes for the delay. Confused, the creature asks how a local even reached this height, noting that Kiryu does not seem to be the one distorting the Chronos factor. The chairman clarifies that he has Lord Kagemitsu's prophecy to guide him, which states that if he fails to eliminate this threat, the world will burn. He brands the creature an enemy of mankind and prepares for battle. The monster asks for a name, and the chairman identifies himself as Kiryu. In return, the entity introduces himself simply as Dot, a master of space-time magic, and invites the chairman to strike. Right now, our hero is sprinting across rooftops, doing everything in his power to reach Tokyo Tower and provide backup. As he runs, he asks the elder Haruto how Muramasa could have possibly located the enemy. The plushie explains it must be the grandfather's prophecy, which carried significant weight in the future as well. Kuju Haruto slows his pace for a split second as a creeping feeling takes hold of his gut. He wonders who is truly pulling the strings behind the scenes. Upon reaching the base of the tower, our protagonist scans the structure with narrowing eyes. He shouts that the enemy is supposed to be at the Skytree, but the plushie reminds him to treat Tokyo Tower with equal urgency. Our boy launches himself into the air and ascends to the summit. The sight that greets him is devastating. Kiryu lies on the ground, surrounded by blood. Kuju Haruto rushes to his side and cradles him in a panic. The director is bleeding out rapidly, though the plushie confirms he is still breathing. Kuju pleads for him to hang on. Kiryu's eyes flutter open, and a look of pure relief washes over his face when he sees the boy. Our protagonist urges him to remain silent, fearing it is already too late for healing. Despite the grim odds, Kuju pulls out an Omega potion as a last resort. Before he can administer it, Dot appears. The mage observes the scene and asks if the wound was caused by Chronos factor exposure, noting that if so, potions will be useless. In that moment, everything clicks. Kuju Haruto realizes this man is the puppet master. The plushie recognizes him as well, the infamous Dot, a master of time and space. Of all the adversaries they could have faced, it had to be him. The situation has shifted from a disaster to a nightmare. The chairman coughs up blood, his strength fading fast. Kuju Haruto and the plushie scramble to assist, but the dying man weakly insists it is too late. He reveals that his original plan was to have our protagonist dismantle the organization from within to prepare for a looming war, but the enemy has arrived ahead of schedule. Long ago, deep beneath Azabu, a rift opened. Not merely a hole, but a gateway to extinction. The chairman explains that he sought out Kuju because he needed someone with the power to stand against the horrors beyond that gate. With his final breaths, he leaves the fate of the world in our hero's hands. Plushie quietly notes that Muramasa's grandfather Kagemitsu was killed by this same threat. The chairman looks at the toy, half laughing at how knowledgeable the stuffed animal is, before asking if this was always fated. He tells Kuju to protect what he could not, expressing his ultimate belief in the boy's potential. Then he goes still. Kuju Haruto clutches the lifeless body, his face twisted in grief as tears fall. Dot watches the display before letting out a mocking laugh, asking if the emotional breakdown is finished. He then wonders aloud if our protagonist is the one responsible for the interference with the Chronos factor. Gently laying the chairman down, our boy rises to his feet, dead set on sending Dot back to whatever void he crawled out of. Dot looks around with vague amusement, noting that this world, pin 34563, feels primitive. He declares his intent to claim the planet and rule the locals. Finding the current space too cramped for a real fight, Dot suggests a relocation. Before Kuju can blink, the scenery shifts entirely. They are suddenly standing in the vast open stretch of the Imperial Palace Plaza. Dot declares the spot perfect for a limit break battle. Stunned by the instantaneous travel, Kuju Haruto asks how such a feat was possible. Plushie fills him in. Dot is a space-time mage, but he isn't from this timeline or even the plushie's future. He hails from an entirely different dimension. This revelation hits hard. Plushie explains that Dot likely followed the energy trail left behind when our protagonist pulled the future Haruto into this world. Saving his future self acted as an open invitation for this predator to invade. Kuju shakes his head, dismissing the apology. He demands all the intel available. Plushie breaks it down. Dot can manipulate space and time with terrifying ease, utilizing spells that defy understanding. In the future timeline, Dot slaughtered entire squads of their strongest allies. When our hero asks about his chances, the elder Haruto doesn't sugarcoat the truth. They are practically zero. However, there is one option left. Plushie tells him to use the method he employed during the rescue, channeling pure elemental power through his blade. It is the very purpose they were born for. Our boy nods, fully locked in, and yells that he is ready. Dot merely scoffs, amused that his opponent is holding a tactical meeting in the middle of a battlefield.